Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto be able to discover her heritage and at the same time keep her secrets from being revealed. Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. For the last time I said no. A blonde-haired girl shouted, slamming her hands on the desk of the old man in front of her. The Sandaime stared calmly into the enraged female's ocean blue eyes and heaved a tired sigh. So what do you propose then, Naruto? Are you going to remain in the ninja academy for the rest of your life? Graduating from the ninja academy means I am on my way to becoming a ninja, and for the last time I have no desire to become a ninja of this village or any other village for that matter. Naruto said through gritted teeth. Her patience with the Sandaime was thinning by the second. They had been arguing about this for over an hour, and the old man still wouldn't drop it. The current Hokage leaned back in his chair, taking a whiff of his pipe before blowing it out. Perhaps we can come to a compromise then. Not likely. There is nothing that you could offer, she began before she was rudely interrupted by the voice of the Kyuubi in her mind. Hold on, Brad, there is one thing that the Sandaime may be able to help us with. Remember that book I was telling you about earlier? The Kyuubi asked his vessel. The Book of Shadows you were babbling about earlier? What about it? She questioned, confused at what that had to do with their current predicament. It is supposed to be a book passed down from parent to child, or in the Uzumaki clan's case mother to daughter. Since your mother passed on before she could give the book to you, most likely it's still somewhere in Konoha. The fox explained to the giant Chiriki. You think that the old geezer might know where the book is? I guess it is possible, the old geezer always knows more than he lets on. She said, torn between admiration and annoyance for the old man's cunningness. Actually, Jai, there are actually a few things you could do for me. She continued. First off, when my mother died she should have left a very old book behind. Give me that book and I think we might be able to come to some type of compromise. Now that I think about it, I did find an ancient-looking book in your mother's belongings, the Hokage admitted. The odd thing was the entire book was blank except for the first page. I wasn't able to decipher the text, but by the letters used I'd hazard a guess that it is of English descent. Where is it? The short girl broke in before the Sandaime could give one of his historical lectures. She knew once he got started he would be popping theories on the origins of the book all night. It's right here. The Hokage rose from his chair and walked over to the shelves lined with books. He reached and pulled a large old sapphire blue book with a spiral engraved on it from one of the shelves. That's the one. The king of Demon World told his frozen vessel. You mean to tell me I have been searching for that damn book for years and it's just been sitting on that shelf since my mother died in plain view? Naruto yelled in disbelief. Well, if you had just asked me about the book in the first place you wouldn't have had to go through all of that. Sarutobi stated bluntly, causing Naruto to glare daggers at him. You've got to admire the irony, kid. The Kyuubi commented. Apparently very humored by the situation, much to Naruto's annoyance. I don't see any irony in this situation. I just see the fates laughing their old wrinkly asses off. Those old hags have nothing better to do than mess with my already messed up life. She retorted hotly. But that book you could control fate and Haluva a lot more. The fox grinned viciously. It will make demon slaying and ghost exorcisms look as easy as becoming a pitiful genin of this village. You could take over the human world and then. Naruto tuned out the fox's voice and concentrated on the Hokage sitting in front of her. I am gonna go ahead guess that you're not just going to give that book to me, even though it is rightfully mine. By law you don't inherit any important valuables and money until you reach legal age, so until you are 18 you can't legally claim any of your parents' things. The Sandaime answered. Naruto snorted. Let me guess again, you are willing to bend the law so I can possess a book that has been in my family for generations if I become a ninja of this village like my foolish parents. The third's gaze hardened. Your parents fought and died as heroes for this village. They were no fools. Naruto met the Sandaime's hardened gaze steadily. Yes, you're right. Of course there mustn't have been anything wrong since you still refuse to tell me who my father is. There's also the fact that even if my parents were these so-called heroes, everyone still acts like I'm the devil incarnate, but I'll humor you, old man, just to prove you wrong about your despicable village. The Sandaime had felt a huge constricting feeling around his heart, feeling like he had failed his deceased successor during Naruto's rant, but now he felt there might be a chance, a slim chance, but still a chance. You'll pass the genin exam then. Naruto shook her index finger at the Sandaime. Oh no. Not just like that. I said before if you found that book for me that we would come to compromise. So let's lay our cards on the table, Jai-chan. These are the only terms I'll agree to. First, I will pass that exam of yours and become a ninja, but an unregistered one. 2. When I receive a Jounin sensei and you had better make it a competent one. 3. When I am not assigned any missions I have the right to leave Konoha for a short while. 2 weeks max. Lastly, when I turn 16 if I still want to leave Konoha, I will be allowed to leave Konoha without any hunter nin after my head. The current Hokage eyebrows had risen with each preposterous demand, and now they were all the way at the edge of his hairline. Naruto, those terms are impossible. I think those terms are a fair price to pay compared to the alternative. I mean, I'll become strong as time goes by, and if I finally snap, then it's going to be goodbye Konoha, and this time there is no fourth to save you. She felt the perverted old man stiffen at the mention of the fourth, but she ignored it. Come on, Sandai Moji-chan, do you really think you're doing me any favor by keeping me here? Konoha may be your home, but to me it is hell, my jail cell. A jail cell that I will eventually break out of. I don't have to do this peacefully, you know. I could just leave Konoha and kill all the hunter nin that come after me. She told him, her hands stuffed in her black cargo pants. Besides, it's not like you haven't bended the rules before. She continued. If you are worried about those old farts finding out, I promise I'll keep my mouth shut until I turn 16 and leave. Or if you want to stay in Konoha. The sensei of the legendary 3 reminded her. Naruto snorted derisively. Yeah, whatever you say Hokage Jai-chan, that's as likely to happen as Iruka-sensei giving me the title of Rookie of the Year because he was impressed by my nefarious pranks, or that Haruno girl dyeing her hair black and getting a life other than being Uchiha's personal stalker. She thought. The Hokage coughed to awake Naruto from her stupor. If I was to agree with your preposterous demand, then I would have to make some of my own. First, as a ninja of the Leaf Village, if you have any information on a possible threat to Konoha, you will report it to me immediately. Hold on a sec, the way you say that is really incriminating. She broke in offended. Naruto, as I have noticed with you, you always seem to know that something is going to occur before it occurs. He pointed out dryly. Women's intuition. She suggested weakly. It was probably the best excuse she could come up with, seeing as the alternative would probably send the old man to his death from the shock. Naruto, I am not asking you to tell me how you know these things. I'm just requesting that if you do hear about trouble having anything to do with Konoha. He was clearly not buying the women intuition thing, but he wasn't going to pry. As long as Naruto used her resources to help Konoha, he didn't care what those resources were. Alright. She conceded to his first demand. What's proposal number 2? Number 2, if by chance you can't reach me, then I want you, if you're able, handle the problem. He stated. I guess I'll have to go with that one too. The demon vessel sighed. That condition was going to be hard to keep. This deal was becoming really troublesome. Number 3, if Konoha is under attack or in the midst of a war while you're still a ninja here, you are to do everything in your power to aid Konoha. The Sandaime had expected to hear some yelling and indignation from the young Uzumaki, or even a Konoha's wars are none of my business, so don't try to drag me into them, but all he got in response was a raised eyebrow. Help Konoha in the midst of war, eh? You definitely kept the best for last, didn't you? Naruto turned her gaze to the book that she was dying to get her hands on. That book had so many answers. The answers to all of her questions. Once again she had stuck her foot in her mouth and gotten herself into a troublesome situation. She had been partly joking with the Hokage about coming to a compromise for the book. She would never had dreamed that the book she had been searching for the last 5 years had been in the Sandaime's office the whole time. If she had known, she would have just taken the book without him ever noticing. Now, of course, since she opened her big mouth, the old man had her. Hook, line and sinker. She had never been interested in a career as a ninja. In fact, in a way she loathed ninjas. To her they had always been like dogs. Konoha fed them the meat, and as long as there was meat they'd come running back till they died. And now, to claim her birthright, she had to be one of those dogs for the next 3 years. God, she had never hated her parents more than she did right now. Fine. She agreed. I'll help Konoha if it's on the borderline of extinction, although it would be a lot more fun to watch. She didn't go on though about how much she would like to see Konoha go up in flames because she felt the Sandaime's face go somber. She really didn't like upsetting the old man, but sometimes she really couldn't help blurting out unpleasant things that she wished would happen to Konoha. Unfortunately, every time she said something like that, it really upset the old man. She guessed it was because he was the Hokage and he loved this village way more than it deserved. But anyway, old man, there's one tiny thing I forgot to mention before. As a ninja I'll have to as I was ordered, but the thing is I have a moral code no matter what. If what I'm being ordered goes against it, I won't do it, she stated firmly. The Hokage couldn't help but smile, thinking. She has your spirit, Arashi, if only we can keep her in the home you loved so much. I've found a way to let her see things from your perspective, but there's no way to keep her from staying if she doesn't want to. She apparently also inherited your stubbornness. I really wonder, would you still have given your life for Konoha if you knew they wouldn't follow your dying wish? Alright, I will write up our agreement while you go and pass that genin exam. He informed her. Naruto grinned at hearing that and stretched a hand to grab the old book, but was stopped by a hand that rested on the book. Not until you pass the exam. He severely told her, causing her to mutter something incorrigible under her breath and stalk from the room. Probably heading to the academy. The Sandaime looked at the book that was under his hand. You really must be a very valuable book if Naruto would go so far as agreeing to all those conditions, especially since she hates Konoha. He muttered to himself, fishing out a scroll, pen and ink to write his agreement with Naruto. While he was doing that he didn't notice the red spiral on the book glow slightly. Naruto was walking slowly to the academy dreading her arrival. She had always hated adults, and the academy was the one place she had ever been forced to go where the adults were completely in charge of anything. Their word was law. That's why she hardly ever went to the academy. She had probably only gone 3 or 4 times this year, and that had been because the Sandaime had caught up with her and personally escorted her there. Of course, every time Naruto went to the academy, some travesty befall the poor place. Like once the teachers have to evacuate the school because someone had set off a string of stink bombs around the school, sowers had seemed to hold it pleasanter than the school had for the next week. Then there was that time where all the teachers had gotten stuck together by this weird gum that latched onto every teacher that passed. A while later the entire staff had been tangled together and in not so comfortable positions. That students had gotten to go home early, but because they couldn't get the teachers off the wall, they had to call the Hokage himself to fix the mess. Those were only 2 of the strange incidents that seemed to happen whenever Naruto stepped on academy ground. Of course they blamed this all on Naruto based on suspicions and coincidences which weren't enough to placate the Hokage. Even though he already knew that it was probably Naruto who was causing all of these incidents, he let her get away with it, probably because it usually gets him away from paperwork for a while. Naruto suddenly felt herself hit something very hard, knocking it to the ground. Glancing down, she found a boy who looked about her age. He was wearing a black t-shirt with a fan on the back and black pants. He had messy black hair that was kept out of his opal black eyes with the goggles he was wearing. He was grinning at Naruto, who was sending him a glare that could scare a missing nin into giving himself up to his home village. The weird thing about this boy was that he was giving off a faint glow. That wasn't the only strange thing about this boy. He was floating a few feet off the ground, but everyone that was walking by didn't even glance his way. It appeared that only Naruto could see him. Naruto turned a corner where she was hidden from plain view and grabbed the front shirt of the boy who was following her. "Obito, how many times have I told you not to materialize in front of me in public?" She hissed to the black-haired boy. "Oh, come on. You're the only that can see me." The Uchiha replied nonchalantly. "It does matter. If I talk to you in public or try to smack you upside the head in public, then I am going to look like I'm some nut job who needs to be chucked in the loony bin again," she retorted hotly. "I think that's a little too late." He teased. He stopped short though at Naruto's glare. "Anyway, I just came here to congratulate you." "Congratulate? On what?" Naruto asked, perplexed. Obito grinned. "Why, on your deal with the Sandaime." He continued, ignoring Naruto's ashen face. "Our little Nari-chan is all grown up and is on her way to the academy to become a genin. Sho and Nai are going to be so happy when they hear about this. I am going to go tell them, and then we're going to meet you at the academy when the genin exam is all over." Naruto grabbed Obito by the collar. "Obito, if you even think about telling them anything about this, I am going to." It was too late. Obito had dematerialized and had probably gone to tell Sho and Nai. "Damn, they are never going to let me live this down," she cursed, resuming her walk to the academy. "Next time I see Obito, I am going to kick his ghostly ass from here to the astral plane." She had made it to the academy before the exam had officially begun. Taking a seat next to Kiba and above Shikamaru and Choji, Naruto scanned the room. Naruto had come up with techniques that helped her in surveying areas. All she had to do was mold her chakra into tiny threads and spread them as far as she wanted. Then it was like everything was in her, caught in her web. She could feel how much chakra a person had and how they were feeling. She usually only used this technique when she was in unfriendly territory. That way, if someone was following her from a long distance that made it difficult for her senses to find the person, then she could just use this technique to find the person. She called this technique chakra web. Placing her hands under the desk, Naruto made a hand seal and let the chakra threads fill the classroom. Naruto almost fainted at the information she was getting from her chakra threads. "These brats are just brats," she thought, outraged. "They couldn't fight their way through a paper bag, hell they don't feel like they could toss a kunai, right? And now thanks to your big mouth we are stuck with a bunch of brats that would probably faint at the sight of a paper cut." Kyuubi said, clearly not happy at the thought of his vessel working with these amateurs. "Shut up, you stupid furball," she responded crossly. "As I recall, you were the one that was jumping out of his tails over that book. It's not like you were doing anything important for the next 3 years anyway. Training my ass off, keeping us from being killed by the forces of freaking evil, exorcising vengeful ghosts, kicking the ass of demons who cross over to the human world and refuse to go back to demon world, having to learn to control over one power after another is what you call nothing." Naruto yelled, pissed off. Today had been a bad enough day without the fox giving her a stupid lecture. Naruto's anger dispersed. The fox never called her by her first name unless it was really serious. Admit the truth. It's true that we do desperately need that book, but as soon as the Sandaime told you where that book was, you could have snuck in any time and took it. You didn't make that deal with the old man for nothing. You had something else in mind. You've always hated the idea of being a ninja, and now you just agreed to be a ninja for the next 3 years. I want to know, why? After you said you would never follow your parents' path, why would you agree to something like this? There was a pregnant pause and then finally. I want to know, why? Why do so many people become ninjas and give their lives to protect this village? That's why. Once I find the answer to that question, I can finally leave this place without anything holding me back. Alright everyone, the Genin exam is about to begin. When your name is called, please make your way into the next room where you'll be tested on the Bunshin no Jutsu. Haruka informed the class while looking at all the students that had come. His gaze landed on Naruto, who was gazing at the ceiling disinterestedly. She probably wasn't even paying attention to a word he had just said. Still, he had to breathe a sigh of relief. At the very least she had shown up to this exam. She had skipped the last 2 exams and hardly ever came to the academy, giving her the lowest grades in the class. He really hoped she passed this exam. He knew that she didn't like the academy, but he thought it would be good if she got to graduate with kids her own age. Well, look who it is. You've finally decided to grace with your presence, Naruto. Kiba asked the girl seating next to him. Naruto sat with her feet on her desk and had her arms crossed in front of her. I've been here for the past half hour and you're just realizing it's me. I thought your family was well known for their keen sense of smell. It's not my fault you decide to dress like a boy all the time. Your scent's always changing too. I can barely recognize you sometimes. Kiba protested. You have gone a little overboard with the tomboyish look this time. Shikamaru added, lifting his head from his arms where he had been dozing off to look at Naruto. Choji, whose last name unluckily starts with an A, had just been called in by Iruka-sensei. Naruto closed her eyes in annoyance. She found nothing wrong with her clothes. She had a long silk black t-shirt with a blue jacket over it that had a spiral engraved on the back. She had black cargo pants with black boots. She had on black fingerless gloves with a metal plate on the front of both gloves. She wore a black cap on her head that made her look mysterious. Naruto's sun-kissed blonde bangs fell in her eyes, though she didn't seem to mind. She had 3 piercings on her left ear and 2 on her right. The truth was that Naruto's womanly attributes were very well developed, so developed that it drew too much attention. Too often people mistook her for a fully grown woman. Unfortunately, fully grown women drew perverts, and you know how the story goes. So she dressed like a boy for 2 reasons. 1, it doesn't draw any attention, and 2, boys' clothes were a haluva a lot comfortable. So, what would you 2 like me to do? Dress up like those bimbos over there. She gestured toward the other girls in the class who were currently fighting on who would sit next to Sasuke. And fight over the guy who acts like he has a pole shoved 10 feet up his ass. No, stay your bitchy self and we'll be happy. Kiba said with Akamaru barking in agreement, inwardly shuddering at the thought of a fangirl Naruto. Regular Naruto was scary enough, but a fangirl Naruto. Just the thought left you having nightmares. Hey Naruto, you wouldn't happen to have a shogi board on you, would you? Shikamaru asked hopefully. Naruto smirked and reached into her jacket pocket to pull out a miniature shogi board. Shikamaru grinned while Kiba and Akamaru's sweat dropped. Nah, Shikamaru, let's make this interesting. Shikamaru raised an eyebrow inquisitively. What do you propose? If I beat you before Iruka-sensei calls your name, you owe me a favor. If I don't beat you before Iruka-sensei calls your name, then I owe you a favor. Alright, Shikamaru, all you have to do is keep the game going until your name is called, and then you can make her take off her hat. We can finally get to see her face without that damn hat. Kiba said, excited by the prospect of finally being able to see Naruto without her hat. Ever since they could remember, Naruto had always had that hat on. She never took it off in plain view. Over the years, Kiba, Shikamaru and Choji had tried to remove the hat using sneak attacks and various other methods, but they never worked. What's going on? Choji had just returned from the exam. He had the leaf headband in his hand, meaning he had passed the exam. Naruto and Shikamaru are about to play a game of shogi. The winner owes the other a favor. Kiba informed Choji. Troublesome really, but since there's nothing else to do. Let's play. The lazy Nara said, yawning. So the game began. Shikamaru was a brilliant strategist, it was just he was too lazy to apply himself in anything besides shogi. Shikamaru would no doubt grow up to be a very powerful shinobi. His analytic abilities were amazing, and Naruto wasn't impressed that easily, so that was saying something. The only reason Naruto could beat Shikamaru in shogi is because she played with Sho all the time. Sho says that shogi was perfect practice for strategic battle planning, which prior to 5 years ago had not been one of Naruto's strong points. "And Yuzuka," Kiba Iruka-sensei called. Kiba huffed, "You guys better not finish this before I come back." Kiba returned a few minutes later smirking with a headband in his hand. "Checkmate," Naruto called happily. Shikamaru groaned, leaned back in his chair and muttered something along the line, "Troublesome women." Nara, Shikamaru, Iruka-sensei called. Shikamaru stood with his hands stuffed in his pockets and a sour expression implanted on his face. He owed Naruto a favor. She was probably going to make him do something troublesome, he thought as he went to the exam room. So what are you going to make Shikamaru do, Naruto? Choji inquired curiously. Oh, nothing much. I just need his help in getting a little payback. Naruto grinned wolfishly, causing the two boys feel very sorry for Shikamaru. Hey, what are we doing the Genin exam on anyway? They're testing us on the Bunshin Jutsu. You have to make at least 3 good Bunshin to pass. Choji said, munching on some BBQ chips. Bunshin Jutsu? Naruto repeated mutely. Hold on a minute. I can't do that jutsu. She thought, alarmed. What am I going to do? Oh, shut up, you brat. Just use the cage Bunshin. Kyuubi said, irritated by all her jabbering. Itsu no baka. The Bunshin Jutsu and the Cage Bunshin Jutsu use completely different hand seals. Not to mention that the Cage Bunshin is a forbidden jutsu. You think if I trounce up there and do the Cage Bunshin that they won't be in the least suspicious? The tomboy snapped at the demon fox. Then ask one of those dimwits to show you the seals to the Bunshin no Jutsu. Then you can fake doing the Bunshin Jutsu by doing the Cage Bunshin. I could do that, but wouldn't the chunins at the exam notice? If these so-called chunins were credited for their great combat skills, then I don't think they would be wasting their time teaching a bunch of thumb-sucking pant-pissing half-wits. You have got a point there. Hey Kiba, can you show me the seals to the Bunshin no Jutsu? Naruto asked the Inuzuka. You mean to tell me that you came to the exam without even knowing the jutsu? Kiba exclaimed in astonishment at Naruto's stupidity. Naruto glared at him. Just show me the hand seals. It's been a long time since I was here and it's not like I use the technique outside the academy. Naruto's lie seemed to satisfy Kiba because he started to demonstrate the seals to the jutsu. Quickly Naruto memorized the hand seals and stored them to memory. Shikamaru, you passed too. Choji said to his best friend who had just returned from the exam room. Shikamaru yawned and sat back in his seat. This whole thing is troublesome. Naruto sighed and decided to just wait until it was her return. After an entire freaking hour Naruto was finally called. Alright, Naruto, to pass the Genin exam you will have to create 3 proper Bunshins. Iruka-sensei told her when she entered the exam room. Wordlessly Naruto performed the seals for the Bunshin no Jutsu that Kiba had just showed her, then she quickly made the sign for the Cage Bunshin. Naruto added enough chakra for 3 Cage Bunshins and made sure not to overdo it. 3 clones of Naruto appeared behind her. Iruka beamed. Good job, Naruto. You paw. Hold on, Iruka. I'm not sure letting her pass is a good idea. Mizuki interrupted. After all, she hardly came to class at all, and she probably doesn't know most of the material required for becoming a ninja. Naruto scowled. This guy was giving off a hateful aura, and it was directed at her, not really surprising considering 98 of Konoha hated her guts. Except this guy had been her teacher for some classes for a while, and he had never even spared her a glance. Now, though she could feel a horrible sickening aura coming from the man, or more precisely the mark on his arm, it was probably invisible to everyone else, but in Naruto's vision, Mizuki had a strange mark on his arm and it was emitting a dark black aura. Naruto narrowed her eyes. This guy is planning something. Something big. That's ridiculous, Mizuki. Naruto started the academy younger than most of the kids. In any case, the Hokage himself said that if Naruto passed the exam then she was to be allowed to become a genin. Iruka protested. Mizuki gritted his teeth. He couldn't disobey a direct order from the Sandaime, at least not to Iruka's face. Iruka picked a headband from the desk and stretched his hand out so Naruto could take it. Arigato, Iruka-sensei. Naruto thanked him. It was rare that anyone would come to her defense. She reached her hand out and grasped the headband, brushing hands with Iruka. Suddenly Naruto wasn't in the exam room anymore. She was standing in a clearing. Somewhere in the forest. Iruka-sensei was sitting at the base of a tree. There were cuts on his pants that looked like they came from kunai and shuriken wounds. Naruto could smell the blood coming from Iruka's wounds. She could taste the metallic flavor of blood in her mouth. Iruka had his head bowed. It looked to Naruto like he was giving in to death. There was a guy across the clearing wearing a triumphant grin. He had a huge scroll tied to his back and a Fuma shuriken in his hand. He pointed the Fuma at Iruka and swung. Naruto, Naruto. Iruka called. She had taken the headband out of his hand and then started to space out. It was like she was in a trance. Hi, sensei. Naruto looked like she had snapped out of her trance. Naruto felt a really nauseating sensation enter her stomach and a dizzy feeling overwhelmed her head. I'm fine, Iruka-sensei. She made her way out of the exam room and out of the academy where all the parents were congratulating their children on passing the exam. Naruto made her way through the crowd and took a seat on the swing, hanging off the branch of a tree that stood in front of the academy. Naruto tried to clear her head and rid herself of the troublesome aftershock from that premonition. This is troublesome. If I'm guessing right, that guy in the vision was Mizuki. He must have stolen some type of scroll and Iruka caught him. Then Mizuki tries to kill Iruka. Man, I haven't been in Konoha for more than a day and already I've been drawn into something really troublesome. Boy, Naruto. An annoyingly familiar voice shouted. Naruto turned her head toward the direction that annoying voice came from. Obito came up to stand in front of Naruto with two men trailing behind him. See, Obito pointed to the headband that Naruto had clenched in her hand. I told you to. She went to pass the genin exam. I couldn't believe until I saw it with my own eyes. Our little Naru-chan is a genin. One of the men said, patting Naruto's cap. Naruto glared. She did not enjoy being treated like a dog. Leave her alone, Aotodo. The other man told the guy who was patting Naruto's cap. The two were apparently brothers, but you couldn't tell it by looking at them. The guy who was teasing Naruto a minute ago had crazy silver hair that was standing up in all directions. He was wearing a blue kimono with a blue fishnet shirt underneath. He seemed to be a rather laid-back kind of guy. The other guy had long straight black hair that was pulled into a ponytail. He was wearing a red kimono with a fishnet underneath. He seemed to be a more serious type of guy, unlike his younger brother. Like with Obito, no one noticed these two men either. It was like they're invisible to everyone but Naruto. In a way Naruto guessed they were invisible. These three and a lot of other people that Naruto could see were dead. Naruto had started to see the dead after she had turned 6. You think seeing the dead would be cool and all, but it's really not, especially in a ninja village. Ninjas were forced onto life and death situations all the time. Lots of the time they end up losing their lives, but they refuse to accept their deaths or they have some unfinished business and refuse to move on until it's completed. Unlike other people, Naruto could see, smell, touch, and hear these ghosts. Naruto sighed at her friend's antics. She wished that they were in private so she could ram her fist into their faces, but she couldn't do that here. It would look like she was hitting thin air and people would start to question her sanity again. Naruto stood and walked up to the old geezer who had put her up to this. The sandame always came to the genin graduation. Okajoji-chan, do you have our deal? Naruto asked when she reached the Hokage. Yes. Congratulations on passing the genin exam. Choosing to ignore Naruto snorted his congratulation. He reached in his robes and pulled out a small scroll. Wordlessly he handed the scroll to Naruto who pocketed it. Where's my book? Naruto was getting really impatient. She needed to figure out when and where Mizuki was going to strike before Iruka was sliced in half. The third reached into his robes again and pulled out the Uzumaki Book of Shadows. Naruto grasped the book from the third's outstretched hands. Naruto felt a little tingle go through her body. Like a small electric spark, the book was recognizing her as its rightful owner. The book was too big for Naruto to stuff in one of her pockets, so she settled for carrying it with one hand. In our agreement you said that if I had information regarding a potential threat to Konoha I would either report it to you or take care of it myself, right? The genin asked the sandame. Yes, that was what we agreed upon. He answered slowly, not liking where this conversation was going. The sandame's unease was definitely not put to rest when Naruto then grinned up at him. What exactly is the punishment for a traitor? Sandame's expression lifted into a partial frown and a partial smile. Not a day had gone by since Naruto had negotiated with him and she already was proving to be a major asset. If possible, traitors are brought back to Konoha and put on trial before the council. So then I have permission to kill any traitors. No, you immobilize traitors until the Anbu arrive to take them away, and if the traitor is too strong to simply immobilize, then you may do what you have to stay alive. Damn, you're so soft. Naruto muttered. She really had wanted to finish Mizuki herself. Guess she was just going to have to settle with beating him up so bad that he'll have to eat food from a straw for the next few weeks. Traitors are to be detained. Only in dangerous and deadly situations do we allow the assassination of a traitor on the field. There is always the possibility that the traitor was wrongly accused or set up. Then we would be condemning a loyal shinobi to a horrible fate. The Hokage lectured sternly to Naruto's dismay. They have no problem killing innocent civilians from other villages, but they're against killing real potential threats to their village when they come from their own village. What hypocrites. Naruto thought, inwardly sneering at the ways of the ninja villages. Whatever you say, old man. Naruto said nonchalantly. It's not like I was talking about a real-life situation. Of course you weren't, Sarutobi said. Naruto never admitted to knowing anything. It was like she thought that everyone had a tape recorder hidden under their clothes and they were going to use her confession as blackmail. He had learned to take seriously any hypothetical scenarios Naruto brought up. Later, old man. Naruto walked into the throngs of celebrating children and parents. When the sandame got a glimpse of where Naruto had just been, he saw that she was gone. So, that Mizuki guy is going to steal some scroll and then kill Iruka? Obito asked Naruto. After Naruto had finished her talk with the sandame, she had gone back to her apartment with her ghost friends in tow. Her apartment was one of the few places she could easily converse with the Shodame, Nidame and Obito without people thinking she needed to be put in a straitjacket and thrown in a mental asylum. Yeah, at least that's what I saw. Naruto sat on her small bed, her back against the window, the book she had just received from the Hokage in her lap. Naruto, did you see any inscription on the scroll that could give us a hint as to what scroll Mizuki might have took? The Shogi inquired. Naruto rubbed her knuckles against her lips, trying to recall anything important she had missed in the vision. It wasn't easy, when she got these premonitions they just shot her a quick flash into the past or future. Trying to recall details from a vision was like trying to hold on to water with your bare hands. All I can recall was that the scroll was really huge. She began slowly. Then as if someone had just flipped a switch in her head something came to her. It was something small but it was there. When Mizuki swung the Fuma I got a glimpse of the scroll. I think I saw a part of a kanji. It was C. The Shogi and Nidaime shared a look, the forbidden scroll of seals. They said in unison. Seeing Naruto and Obito's confused expressions, the Shogi elaborated. It's a scroll filled with kenjutsu, forbidden ninja arts, that Iniki left behind. Most of the jutsus in the scroll are meant for high-level jounins in an enemy's hands. They can assess the strengths and weaknesses of Konoha's most powerful jutsus and turn them against us. This sparked Naruto's curiosity. Can you teach me the jutsus in that scroll? Obito shook his head in amazement. Konoha could be in serious trouble and you're more interested in learning some more deadly-ass jutsus. Naruto chose to ignore him and instead waited for the two dead Hokage's answer. We've already taught you most of the jutsus in that scroll. The Nidaime answered with a wry smile. Hello, major crisis about to happen, really no time for Naruto to be whining about new jutsus, especially if that scroll falls into the wrong hands. Then you'll be too busy fighting in a war to even eat, much less learn any new jutsus. Obito broke in, trying to get everyone's attention back to the matter at hand. Naruto grinned. Since when did you become so serious? She asked teasingly. This isn't funny. Konoha could be in big trouble. Obito snapped, glaring at Naruto. Naruto held up her hands in defense. Okay. You don't have to worry about it. I've already got a plan. Obito eyed her disbelievingly. What's the plan then? Well, obviously I am gonna have to wait for Mizuki to steal the scroll. Then when the Sandaime calls all the ninjas to go look for Mizuki, I'll follow Iruka. I knock Iruka unconscious with some sleeping gas. Then I'll have to use some genjutsu on Mizuki since I don't want him to go blabbing about how I kicked his ass to the council. She explained. It sounds okay, but are you forgetting that you completely suck in genjutsu? Obito said, pointing out what he believed to be a flaw in the plan. I don't suck in genjutsu. I just don't like genjutsu. I like taijutsu and ninjutsu. Naruto protested. I'm not that good with high-level genjutsus, but I have a few that can finish someone at Mizuki's level. Naruto's plan sounds fine, but be prepared to improvise should anything go wrong. The Shogi advised. With that said, all that was left to do was wait until nightfall. Like in Naruto's vision, Mizuki had stolen the forbidden scroll of seals and had started to go through a forest that led right out of Konoha, but had been confronted by Iruka. Mizuki, what do you think you're doing? Iruka shouted, outraged to what had once been his fellow teammate. What do you think I'm doing? I am going to leave this village and get more power. Mizuki replied with something akin to madness flickering in his eyes. Naruto, who was hiding in the trees above them, just shook her head in disgust at the typical and cliché answer. Why are you doing this? Iruka sounded deeply wounded by the man's response, and Naruto felt slightly sorry for him. Iruka was too gentle to be a shinobi. It was actually one of the reasons she could have taken to him as a child. Why wouldn't I do this? Stay in a village that's run by a peace-loving fool who favors goody two-shoes like you. You all make me sick. Even with that Kyuubi brat you were always so nice. She was the monster that killed your parents, but you went ahead and let her pass the exams today. Mizuki yelled out in a demented rage. Naruto figured she was supposed to throw the sleeping gas now, but she really wanted to hear Iruka's response. Naruto's not a monster. She's a citizen of Konoha, just like everyone else here. She used to mess up a lot when she came to class and everyone would jump on her. So she stopped coming, but she never stopped trying. The exam today was proof of that. She truly is one of my most precious students. Iruka responded angrily, unaware that Naruto had heard every word. Before Mizuki had a chance to explain, the clearing they were standing in became covered in sleeping gas. Mizuki jumped out of the way, but Iruka remained rooted to the spot. There was something holding his feet in place, but he couldn't see what it was due to all the smoke. He coughed a few times then slumped unconscious. Meanwhile, Mizuki looked like he was having some kind of seizure. He was clawing at his face, and his entire body was wriggling. Finally he stopped struggling from Naruto's genjutsu attack, and he also became unconscious. You know, I feel really lucky to be dead right now, because as scary as your ninjutsu and taijutsu are, your genjutsu looks brutal. Obito said, shivering from what he had just witnessed Naruto's genjutsu to be like. Are you just going to leave them like that? Nidaime asked his young student. Yeah, I've done my job, now let the Anbu do theirs. Naruto said. Hopefully, the Sandaime has also had a good show as well. Asani was a relatively small peaceful village. It was on the outskirts of Fire Country. far away from ninja villages. If you wanted to request help from a ninja village it would take a month just to get there by horse. That's only the elapsed time, assuming of course that the messenger party didn't run into difficulties. Lately there has been a strange disturbance in the forest that surrounded the village. Villagers would enter the forest, hoping to get medicinal herbs for the sick, and then the next day the corpse was found hanging from the tree branches of the huge oak tree at the edge of the forest. The elder of the village had forbidden anyone from going anywhere near the forest. After the second corpse had been found, a few days had gone by without incident, and the villagers had breathed a sigh of relief. Whatever had been terrorizing them from the forest they thought had finally moved on. They had been wrong, very wrong. One or two villagers would wake up in the middle of the night and walk towards the forest as if in a trance, something pulling them to the forest like bees to honey. The elder, facing a desperate situation increasing by the day, didn't have much choice. There was no time to go to a ninja village, wait for their request to go through, and then wait for the return trip. Who knew if the village would even be standing by then? So the village had no choice but to call in someone who was well known for disposing of problems like this quickly and effectively, though she always requested a small fee. A red-haired woman was currently leaping from tree to tree with practiced ease. She was wearing a red leather vest and red leather pants. She was also wearing a long red cloak with a sword strapped to her waist. Her unusually red dilated eyes were fixed on the path in front of her. She had a communicator strapped to her ear and seemed to be having a conversation with someone. So any clues on who or might be murdering those villagers in Gasani Akio? The girl inquired into her communicator. So far I haven't detected anything out of the ordinary in the area, but based on the story the village sent me, I'm willing to bet that they don't have a normal out-of-control grizzly bear. The guy called Akio began. There was a pause, and the red-haired woman heard the sound of some fast typing, but my scans are definitely picking out of the ordinary substances in the air. Substances that only come about from supernatural sources. He continued. The unnamed woman frowned in thought, making her appear to be a lot older than she was. Are we talking demon supernatural or possible out-of-control vampire werewolf supernatural? Hard to say. It could be any of the three, although I'm leaning more toward a demon slaying tonight. Vampires normally only take the blood they need from their victims. Not enough to kill them, but enough to make a person lie in bed for a few days. They only need to drain all the blood from a human once a year, and then they usually chose people who are probably going to die soon. So that it doesn't look suspicious. The rogue vampires may go on a killing spree if they let their desire for blood overwhelm them, but I scanned the bodies of the victims and there were no teeth marks, not to mention this village is on the outskirts of a country that has a ninja village. Even rogue magical creatures wouldn't travel within a 50-mile radius of any of the ninja countries. Akio said, crossing vampire from their lists of suspects for the time being. I'd cross werewolves from our list of suspects as well. They're cannibals. When they get ready to feast they don't leave a hair uneaten, much less a corpse. She said it looks like it's another demon that's made it past the barrier and crossed over to the human world to wreak some havoc. Akio groaned. Man, and here I was hoping for some excitement tonight. Shut up, excitement for you usually means a few days of hospitalization for me. She said testily. You're the vixen. A huntress who's world renowned for slaying supernatural troublemakers, you get paid thousands for each job. I think you could stand a few trips to the hospital. The young genius told her, as if it would wipe away her extreme dislike of hospitals. The vixen grinned, revealing fangs that could probably crush rocks. And I'll pretend that the fact that you get half of whatever I make has nothing to do with your need for excitement. Akio feigned hurt. Come on, we've been best friends since before the academy. We've been through thick and thin together. Plus I'm the only one in the entire world who trusted with your secret identity. Do you really think I'd care about money more than your well-being? His red-haired friend didn't answer his rhetorical question. Her target had made himself known by attacking her with tree roots. She dodged the attack and saw the tree roots rip through the tree as if it were a piece of paper. She landed in a clearing a few feet away from her attacker. This demon looked like a regular 8 or 9-year-old boy. Vixen narrowed her eyes at the demon in front of her. His presence wasn't like any other demon she'd fought in the past. Are you the guardian? The demon asked, his voice a complete mask of innocence behind the childish voice. Guardian? She repeated in puzzlement. A lot of the recent demons she had been slaying or sending back to Demon World had called her that too for some reason. She had been trying to figure out who this guardian person was, but so far she had had no luck. Maybe she could find out what this guardian business was from this boy. The boy took a couple of steps closer, bringing him within arm's length of her. That's right, the guardian. You're supposed to keep the balance of the three worlds in harmony. He said, smiling. Do you think I'm this guardian? Sorry, demon brat, but I could care less what the hell happens between the three worlds. You've got the wrong girl. The boy shook his head. I can smell it. The blood that flows within you is of the last guardian's blood. You are a guardian. Vixen was for some reason feeling drawn to the boy. She took a step closer to him and then she heard Akio shout. Get away from him quick. He shouted, making her ears ring. Nevertheless, she separated from the boy by jumping back to the base of the tree she had originally jumped from. I found out what he is. I couldn't trace him before because we've never fought him before, so he's not in my database. But I looked him up in that book you gave me. This guy's a soul eater. Soul eaters take the appearance of children to lure in human victims. When that doesn't work, they can choose victims and draw their souls to them. That would explain why some of the villagers would wake up like mindless zombies and go into the forest. Akio informed her. Anyway, don't let him touch you. His powers are useless against demons. Since you're only half demon, you won't be drawn to him as easily as humans, but the more time you spend in his presence, the weaker your resistance. Vixen glanced at the boy who was watching her like a snake watches his prey. I've heard of soul eaters. If this kid is really a soul eater, then why would he leave corpses at the edge of the forest? As far as I know, they just suck the souls out of people's bodies. What reason was there to hang the villagers? Well, that's look, when you normally slay a soul eater, the souls that haven't been digested yet go back to their body, but when there's no body, the souls have nowhere to return to. So the souls just wander in eternity with nowhere to go. You won't have to worry about that though. He hasn't had a meal in a few days. All of the souls he ate have been digested already. All we can do now is prevent anyone else from suffering the same fate. Akio said gravely. Does it say anything in that book about to get rid of these soul suckers? She asked. No. He answered. I think you're just gonna have to do it the old-fashioned way. Preferably before you become a vegetable. Don't worry, I'll have this all wrapped up in 10 minutes. You can even time me. She assured him, preparing her body to strike. Bet you half of my paycheck you can't do it in 5. He challenged. You're on. She said before lunging forward at such a speed that the soul eater had no time to react. He received a punch right in his gut that knocked him into a tree. The boy got up and wiped some blood from his mouth. You're no ordinary human. The demon murmured. You must be a half-demon of some sorts. It really doesn't matter what I am because you're not going to live long enough to actually fathom that you got your ass kicked by a half-demon. The vixen pulled out the sword that was hanging on her waist from its sheath. The sword looked like an average sword. The demon slayer began to concentrate on calling her magic out. She felt a prickling in her fingers and something rushed through her veins, giving her a sense of elevation. The sword in her hands began to glow a black color. She pointed it at the boy. The blackness enshrouding the sword was starting to form the shape of what looked like a fox with some huge fangs. Element darkness. Fangs of the vixen. She cried before slashing the sword downward, releasing the blackness from the sword. It surrounded the boy, and the head shape came to be in front of the boy. It stared into the horror-filled eyes of the demon before it latched onto him and devoured him. The blackness surrounded the head. If you looked closely enough, you could see a shape struggling inside. Slowly the blackness dissolved and the struggling ceased. The vixen resheathed her sword and smirked. I'll take my money in cash, please. She could hear the repeated pounding of a head against a keyboard, making her smirk widen further. Naruto, remember one thing. Akio said, revealing the identity of the vixen. What? I hate you. Naruto's smirk turned into laughter to Akio's annoyance. After Naruto's laughter had subsided, she closed her eyes. The wind picked up around her and she disappeared. Naruto reappeared in a small apartment. It had a small bathroom. A tiny bed that looked like it couldn't fit her. The room had no belongings or any furnishings that would indicate if someone was living here. The small refrigerator was empty. There were no silverware in the cabinets or the sink. The closet also was empty. Naruto walked to her bed and collapsed on it. Slowly her fangs and her claws retracted. Her hair returned to its original blonde color. Her red dilated eyes changed back to her ocean blue eyes. She also became a few inches short at her waist, dissolved into a silver liquid and crawled down her arm and wrapped around her middle finger. It stilled and transformed into a silver band ring. Her red demon slaying outfit vanished to be replaced by light blue silk pajamas and a cute panda sleeping cap. Naruto snuggled into her pillow and pulled her blankets over her, preparing to go to sleep. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Come on, Naruto, it's time to get up. Hollered Obito, sounding like he was high on something. If it were even possible for ghosts to get high. Naruto, who had just been dozing off, had a huge vein pulsing in her temple. Her fingers were twitching like they were about to strangle something, or rather someone. Up and at him. Come on, Naruto, the sun's already up. Then Obito did something that Naruto thought warranted the beating she gave him after. He opened the curtains and let the rays of sun enter the apartment. Naruto blinked back a few tears, trying to get her eyes adjusted to the light. Then she grabbed something from under her pillow and hurled it at Obito. It went straight through Obito, who gave a surprised yelp. A kunai embedded itself in the wall behind Obito. Naruto grabbed the startled dead Chunin by the scruff of his shirt and flipped him onto his back. She sat on top of him, pulling his arms back rather painfully. Do you have a problem with letting people get a decent night's sleep? She shouted at him. No, but waking me up and then blasting that stupid light into my face. If you weren't dead, I'd kill you. But I was just dozing off, almost entering a blissful slumber and then boom. Just like that you come barging in, and my dreams of being able to drift away peacefully fly straight out the window. Naruto. What? You have to go to the academy today to find out who your team and Jounin-sensei are. Cried Obito. At this rate you're going to be late. Academy? Naruto repeated, a look of confusion marring her face. Then realization spread. Naruto remembered she had been told by Iruka to come to the academy tomorrow to receive her team and sensei. Naruto swore loudly, leaping off Obito and heading into the bathroom. Obito, could you make me some ramen? Naruto asked, her voice carrying over the sound of the shower sprinkler. Obito glared at the bathroom door, his left eyebrow twitching. She had yelled at him, threw a kunai at him, and sat on him. She didn't even apologize or thank him for coming and waking her up. There was no way, and he meant no way, was he doing anything for her. Naruto sensed Obito wasn't moving from the spot she had left him. She could also tell he was glaring at the bathroom door. Naruto sighed while she washed her waist-length blonde hair. She had been a real bitch to him when he was only trying to help her. The truth was Obito, from some reason, was really ecstatic about her becoming a ninja. He'd been going on about the greatness of the life of a ninja since yesterday non-stop. She had let the fatigue get to her mind and let the anger she was feeling about the predicament she was in get to her head. Which wasn't like her. Then again, she did really get crabby during that time of month. Thank God it was gone. No more mood swings. Now she could be a bitch to all the right people. Obito, I had a mission tonight. Naruto told him, raising her voice so she could be heard over the water. Obito glared at the door even harder. She wasn't supposed to go on any missions outside of Konoha. All four of them had agreed it would be best if Naruto retire from her job as the vixen. If she came home with an injury before, she could just stay in bed and wait for it to heal. Now, though, she couldn't just appear to her team and sensei with a critical wound and accept them not to notice. Questions would be asked, and then everyone might find out. Then Naruto would be in some real trouble. It would be impossible then for her to leave Konoha. The elders would never allow such a valuable weapon to escape their grasp, even if she was the vessel for the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Naruto was mentally counting the seconds in her head before he would explode. 3, 2, 1, and there Obito goes. Hey, you know that kinda rhymes. Naruto, you idiot. You said you would quit being the vixen. You promised. Why would you do something so stupid when you knew you had to go meet your team and sensei today? Obito demanded angrily. 1. I didn't promise anything. 2. It was any easy mission. Not a scratch on me. Besides, those people really needed some help. And I really need the money for her treatment. This was the only mission I'll be taking on for a while. So don't worry. Naruto said brightly, emerging from the bathroom with her regular clothes and cap on. Obito turned his back to her, a sign he was still angry with her. He obviously wasn't letting her off that easy. Naruto groaned miserably. She didn't want him to be angry with her. She hated it when they fought. Naruto draped her arms around the neck of her pouting friend and squeezed. I'm really sorry, Obito-chan. I'm a big meanie. I should be locked up for ghostly child abuse. Alright, already, I forgive you, now get off of me. He yelled, pulling himself out of Naruto's embrace. The young blonde could have sworn that Obito's face had colored about. Naruto waved it off as some trick of light or something. Then Obito brought his face closer to hers and yelled, don't you ever call me Obito-chan again. And I'm not a child. Naruto was sure that if he had been alive her face would have been covered in spit. As it was, the dead's corporal body didn't produce body fluids, like saliva, saving Naruto the trouble of having to take another shower. Naruto fanned Obito's face with her hand. Relax. I won't add the suffix "chan" to your name ever again, even though it makes you sound adorable. Naruto said, pinching his cheeks like a demented grandmother would do. Obito's face colored a bit. Naruto couldn't tell if it was from anger or embarrassment. I'm not adorable, I'm a guy, we're not supposed to be adorable. He shouted to the blonde who was exiting the apartment on her way to the academy. Hurry up, Obito, you're going to make me late. Naruto told him, ignoring his last comment. I'm coming. He said, floating to catch up to her. Naruto grinned, giving herself a pat on the back. I win every time. Naruto was currently glaring very hard at the chunin below her, who was reading out the names for the different teams. Her name had been called. Naruto's brain was still in a period of brain shock. It was when you heard something but your brain won't believe it. When an organ and a sense can't work together, it causes a shock to enter the mind, leaving you momentarily speechless. At least that would be Naruto's explanation if someone asked her about the dumbstruck expression afterward. Naruto slapped her hand on the table and rose from her seat. I object, Iruka-sensei. She shouted, drawing the attention of Iruka-sensei and everyone else in the room. Idiot. This is a classroom, not a courtroom. Naruto heard Shikamaru whisper to her from behind. Naruto made a mental note to kick him later. What is it, Naruto? Iruka asked questioningly. I want a different genin team. Naruto answered. You Naruto, you can't just decide that off the top of your head. The teams were organized by the Hokage himself. We are supposed to put the lowest ranking student with the highest ranking student. You, who were never here, got the lowest scores in the class, and Sasuke got the highest scores in the class. Add Sakura in, and you get a balanced team. Haruka lectured, his hand on his hips. Naruto pointed a finger at Shikamaru. Well, Shikamaru's grades were almost as bad as mine, and he was here most of the time. Switch him and me. Shikamaru's head shot up. There was no way he was getting stuck with a shrew and the guy with a 10-foot pole up his ass, as Naruto likes to call them. At least now he was on a team with Shogi. They would have to stand Ino's bossy rude attitude, but that was better than being stuck with the Uchiha and his personal stalker. Shikamaru was about to open his mouth to object but was saved as the Chunin instructor came to his rescue. No. Hokage-sama himself chose these teams. So if you have a problem, go talk to him yourself. Haruka said with a tone of finality. Just don't slow me down, dope. The Uchiha survivor told Naruto arrogantly, while Sakura just gushed at the coolness of her Sasuke-kun. Naruto sniffed, not impressed at all by the youngest Uchiha. He was a spoiled brat who thought that everything would be handed to him because he was an Uchiha and a supposed genius. It would be impossible to make you any slower than you already are, team. Naruto replied, not caring that she had just insulted the class's precious Sasuke-kun and she was about to become number one on his fan club's hit list. Naruto sat back in her seat and sighed. It looked like she was stuck with the bubblegum-haired shrew and the Uchiha bastard. Ha, ha, ha. This is a classic. Kyuubi had obviously awoken and was happy to start bothering Naruto again. Find something funny? Yeah. This poor little kid's life is nothing but a huge amount of painful irony. I mean, out of 30 kids you got paired with the 2 kids you hate most in the entire class. Your life is a terrific soap opera. One tragedy after the next and I have a front row seat. Now all that's missing is some popcorn and I'll be set for life. Ha ha ha. Kyuubi teased wickedly. This is coming from the overgrown rabbit who is supposed to be the king of demons. HMPH, demons must be real sissies if they're taking orders from a stupid ugly red bunny who watches soap operas. Who are you calling a rabbit, you dwarf? Didn't you forget ugly and stupid? So it is true what they say. You only notice the things that you're sensitive about. Don't talk about yourself like that, Brad, it's not good for your self-esteem. Kyuubi had regained some of his wits. He was not about to be outdone by this twerp. Naruto ignored Kyuubi's taunt. Kyuubi has always been like an older annoying brother to her. And like any younger sister, she enjoyed making him cry. I mean, she enjoyed these talks that gave them a precious time to bond and understand each other. I really feel sorry for your mother. She was hoping for a strong, handsome baby fox. Instead she got an atrocious looking thing that looked half rabbit and half fox. What did you say, you hairless ape? I'll have you know that my mother loved me very much. Unlike you. Are you sure the leprechauns didn't abandon you because you were too short by even their standards? Yeah, whatever helps you sleep at night. Hey, can you do me a favor? Just say what's up, doc. Once. That's it, you little rodent. I'm gonna give you indigestion for the next month. Indigestion. Hey, hold on a minute. Naruto never got a chance to beg for forgiveness from the greatest king of demons ever because a horrible cold feeling enveloped the genin. Naruto whipped around to stare at Obito and her favorite 2 dead Hokages. Naruto glared at Obito, seeing his hand retreat from inside her chest. You couldn't find some other way to get my attention? Sure, but flying erasers would attract some attention. The Nidaime said cheerfully. Naruto's hands flew to her mouth, her face molded into an expression of oh shit. She whipped her head around the classroom, seeing that it was empty, her expression visibly relaxed. She turned her head to glare at the Nidaime. You didn't have to scare me like that. The Nidaime wagged a finger at Naruto and tutted. A ninja must be aware of their surroundings at all times. They can't just stare into space. You didn't notice when everyone left the classroom and you didn't notice us until we gave you a jolt. If that had been an enemy. I get it. Naruto broke in, not wanting to hear that lecture for the 7th billionth time. So what brings you guys here? We wanted to see whom you got paired with. The Shodaime told her. So, who's on your team? Obito asked eagerly. Naruto made a noise in her throat. Obito's youngest living relative and this bit I mean girl named Haruno, Sakura. Naruto said in an emotionless, but Naruto's annoyed face was enough for them to know she was not happy with the Sandaime selection. Haruno. They're just regular villagers, which means she's going to be a first-generation ninja. The Nidaime said thoughtfully. If she lives that long. Naruto muttered under breath, but Shodaime caught it anyway. You don't like your new teammates? The first Hokage asked her. Haruno has no interest in becoming a ninja at all. It's always Sasuke-kun that and Sasuke-kun this. She probably only became a ninja so she can follow the guy around everywhere. It's girls like her that give serious Kunoichi a bad name. And the Uchiha brat thinks he's better than everyone because the villagers have been bowing to his every whim. I swear his ego is as big as the Hokage mountain. Naruto said, showing her obvious distaste for both of her newly appointed teammates. Shadame frowned, not liking the negative attitude Naruto had developed for her teammates. Naruto, in the shinobi world, the number one thing is teamwork. When teams can't work together, it can result in a failed mission and possibly death for all members of that team. Naruto resisted the urge to roll her eyes. She knew that already from all the philosophy lessons he'd drilled in her head. Besides, Obito had told her how he had died. His death would probably be the perfect example of failed teamwork. "They're just kids," she whispered, reveling one of the main things that had been bothering her about her new comrades. "They have no idea what it's like to stare death in the eye or to take life because it has to be done. I do. You want me to entrust my life to two people who could care less what happens to me? You want me to protect two people whom I don't even like and put their life before mine when they probably won't do the same? How can I do something like that? Besides, why the hell did the Sandame put me with the two kids I hated the most when there were 30 other kids to choose from?" The three ghosts looked at each other. None of them wanted to be the ones to go up to Naruto and say, "Hey Naruto, the Sandame stuck you with them because he's trying to put together the teams that have worked in the past." "How does that have anything to do with you?" you ask. "Well, the Yandame, you know, the one who locked the Kyuubi in you, was your father. And by the way, your Jounin sensei is probably going to be your father's only living student and Obito's teammate. He's always late 2 hours and he reads this perverted book in public all the time." Yeah, not exactly the best speech you would give to a kid who are trying to convince to be a good ninja. "Look Naruto, they are not going to put a fresh out of the academy team in life-threatening missions. You'll start with simple missions so that you can develop a deeper trust in your teammates. So why don't you take the time now and try to get to know your teammates better?" the Nidame suggested after a few moments of silence. Naruto gave him a look that said, "I'd rather model for the cover of Icha Icha Paradise. Do it or else you won't be learning any new moves anytime soon." The Shadame threatened. Naruto stood from her seat with a scowl on her face. "Fine, but you guys are coming with me just so I can prove that those two are not interested in anything but themselves." Naruto walked outside sensing Sakura weak chakra signature. She was sitting on a bench with a bento box next to her, looking dejected. Naruto guessed it was because she couldn't find Sasuke anywhere. Turning around to see her friends watching her, she walked up to Sakura like she was about to walk the plank. "Hey, Sakura, what's up?" Naruto greeted, trying to be as friendly as she could. "What do you want, Naruto?" was the greeting that Naruto got in return. "Well, I was just thinking that since we're on the same team and stuff, maybe we save it." "Naruto. I know why you're doing this. You're trying to steal Sasuke-kun from me." Sakura broke in snidely. "Trying to steal Sasuke from you?" Naruto echoed, dumbstruck, not believing that out of all the things Sakura could have said, it had to be the stupidest thing she'd ever heard. She liked Sasuke as much as he loved Itachi. "That's right. I'm not going to fall for it, and neither will Sasuke-kun. I mean, what guy in his right mind would like you anyway? You don't have any parents, so you just do whatever you want. You're just an annoying, spoiled brat," Sakura announced before grabbing her bento box and walking back to the academy. Naruto, who did not take that crap from anyone, reached into her kunai holster, drew a kunai, and aimed for the pink-haired shrew. Just as she was about to kill the bitch, she felt someone grab her hand that held the kunai, and another pair of hands grabbed her waist and hauled her into the bushes. "Naruto, calm down." Obito was struggling to keep his grip on the hand that was holding the kunai that wanted to have a nice reunion with Sakura's gigantic forehead. I'll calm down right after I kill that bitch. Who the hell does she think she is? Just because I was nice and civil doesn't mean I'm not going to go over there and beat the shit of her right now. I'll rip her guts out and strangle her with them. Then I'm gonna pull out her tongue." Naruto didn't look like she was going to calm down anytime soon. Nidame decided to take the initiative and whack Naruto on the head. That seemed to put an end to her murderous rage. "You guys were the ones who were going on about that bullshit called teamwork. Now what do you have to say for yourselves? Or not?" The Nidame scratched the back of his neck, looking sheepish. "Okay, maybe you were right about her having boys a little too much on the ball. But not all teammates are going to be best friends on the bat. Look at me and Aniki, we were on the same team, we didn't always get along back then, and a century later that still hasn't changed." The Shadame nodded in agreement with, "That would be true for a normal team." Naruto leaned on the back of the tree that was beside her and looked up at the sky. "But that's not the case with me. Even if the Sandame declared that law 12 years ago, that didn't stop the younger generation from picking up their parents' obvious distaste for me. Sakura and lots of the other kids had no idea why their parents hated me so much." Naruto suddenly looked very tired. Her eyes clouded, turning her ocean blue eyes into angry sapphires. Those eyes were ones of someone who had seen the horrors the world possessed in her short 12 years of existence. "So they thought it was because I had no parents or anyone to discipline me that I always got into everyone's way. That I got into their way because I like to bring trouble upon everyone. Even if no one has seen me around the village that much the past couple of years." Humans can bear grudges like no other creature I have ever seen. Naruto rose from the base of the tree and stretched her shoulders out a bit. She placed her hands into her jacket pockets and headed into the opposite direction, not wanting to see the looks of her comrades' faces after her speech. Each one of them had died in the village that had trampled her innocence. Sho-sensei and Nai-sensei had both been unable to rest in peace because they had not wanted to leave their village until Konoha became at peace. They could never move on, so they had remained in the living realm as ghosts to watch over their village. "Where are you going?" The silver-haired ghost called to her, seeing she was heading in a different direction than the academy. "Someone owes me something and I'm going to collect." By the mischief in Naruto's voice they couldn't help but feel very sorry for whoever it was that owed Naruto something. Obito glanced at his two fellow ghosts before him. "What do we do now?" "We do nothing. We've done all we can and I think we've only made things worse." The creator of Konohagure said, staring at Naruto's retreating figure solemnly. Nidaime shrugged. "Naruto will just have to realize the importance of teamwork on her own." "Alright then." Obito exclaimed, holding out a deck of cards. "Let's play Go Fish." "Obito, that game is child's play. Why don't we play something a bit more challenging? Like Shogi?" Shodaime suggested. At the word Shogi the second Hokage had whipped his head around so fast that if he had been alive, he would have snapped it. "I vote Go Fish." Obito popped a fist in the air enthusiastically. "Majority rules. We're going to play Go Fish." The first Hokage scowled at the two goofy idiots that stood before him. They were wasting time on silly childish games instead of playing games that would enrich and challenge the mind. The younger brother saw the look his big brother was giving them and grinned. "Come on. Iniki, the only reason you hate this game is because you lose every time." The first scowl turned into a glare that was directed at the two that stood before him, while inwardly he cursed Naruto for leaving him with these two twits. "Dude, you've completely lost it, haven't you?" The laziest genin asked his grinning companion. "Hey, you owe me a favor and I've come to collect," Naruto said, leaning against the railing of the rooftop they were currently on. Shikamaru sighed. He had been eating his lunch with Choji and Ino. Well, it was more like him and Choji were eating while Ino was giving them a speech about how they had better listen to her or else. Then Naruto had appeared and dragged him away. Compared to what Naruto was asking him to do, he'd rather go back to listening to Ino. But he had no choice, he owed Naruto a favor and now he had to pay up. Shikamaru sighed again, looking up at the clouds longingly. "Are you sure we won't be caught?" Naruto waved a hand at him. "Don't worry, Shika-chan. Your mommy won't find out about this if you do everything exactly as I say." Shikamaru sighed a third time, standing up. "Alright, let's go." "I got any sixes, Nai-chan?" Obito asked. "Nope, what about you, Iniki?" Nidaime asked. The Shodaime stared at the cards with a look that said I hate you more than I hate paperwork as he threw in two cards. "What do you think Naruto went to do when she left us?" Nidaime demanded curiously. "Who knows? As long as she's not doing anything too bad, just leave her to it, it might even put her in a better mood to meet her Jounin-sensei." Shodaime quipped. Obito looked up from his cards and turned his head to look at the Hokage mountain. He blanched at the sight that met him. Someone was on the Hokage mountain and that person was giving the Hokages a whole new makeover. "Naruto, are you trying to get yourself killed?" Obito wondered. Stop. Are going to pay for what you did to the Hokage mountain." A Chunin was yelling at the girl, he was jazzing. "How dare you do that to the Hokage's faces? You want to get away with this?" Another Chunin shouted, increasing his speed along with his partner. They both stretched their hands, an inch from reaching the girl. Suddenly they both stumbled over something and they had an unpleasant meeting with Mother Earth. As two Chunins looked up, they saw the girl enter the academy. They quickly rose from the ground and continued their pursuit. They ran into the academy and saw the girl sitting in an empty classroom looking bored. The Chunin each grabbed an arm belonging to the girl and hauled her out of the classroom. The girl that apparently been surprised by the two Chunin began to struggle, shouting obscenities at the Chunins. The commotion brought a small crowd and roused Iruka from his office. "What on earth is going on here?" the 24-year-old Chunin demanded, hands propped on his hips facing the two Chunins who were holding one of his students. "This girl vandalized a precious Hokage monument," the first Chunin exclaimed, to Iruka's extreme shock. "Sakura?" Iruka said, in bafflement. The only one he knew who would attempt such a daring act would be Naruto, but never in a million years would he suspect Sakura of anything. "We're taking her to clean up the monument and then we're going to have a nice chat with her parents," the second Chunin told Sakura. "But I didn't do it," Sakura protested, her eyes beginning to fill with tears at the thought of what her parents were going to do when they heard of this. "Sakura, I can't believe you would do something like this," Iruka reprimanded sternly. "But Iruka-sensei." "No but Sakura. You are going to go and clean up the Hokage's mountain," Iruka said harshly. You had better do it quickly though, you have to meet your Jounin sensei in a couple of hours. The two Chunin both resumed dragging Sakura, who was cursing at them both through the throngs of people that had gathered, never noticed two people who were at the back of the crowd. One with a hat and was laughing so hard she was sure to bust her diaphragm. And the other one was just shaking his head at his laughing friend with a bored expression on his face. That was cruel, Naruto. She is going to get into a lot of trouble because of this. Shikamaru said to Naruto, whose laughter had just subsided into chuckles instead of the full-blown laughter it had been a few minutes ago. That's not really my problem. She should have thought twice before pissing me off. Just because I didn't rip her tongue out and wrap it around her neck doesn't mean I won't get even. Naruto snapped. Shikamaru muttered some incorrigible things about how troublesome women were as he walked towards the academy. Why did you need that lazy brat anyway, brat? Inquired Kyuubi curiously. Because if we did get caught he would get in trouble instead of me. Besides, when it comes to running away, no one's as good as Shikamaru. I think I've been a bad influence on you. I. Naruto yawned from her place on the windowsill of the academy. Sasuke was sitting in one of the desks with his chin resting on his outstretched hands. If Naruto couldn't see the rise and fall of his chest, she could have sworn he was a statue or something. Sakura wasn't there because she was currently getting paint off the third's face. That had been 3 hours ago. Sakura had returned looking tired with paint all over her. Her strength had immediately returned though after she saw Sasuke sitting in the classroom and she began pestering the Uchiha about a date. All of the Jounin senseis had already came and picked up their teams, except for Team 7. Naruto assumed it was because their Jounin sensei had got caught up with an important mission of some kind. How wrong she was. So she had opted for catching some shut-eye while she waited for the Jounin to appear. Another hour passed by while Naruto blissfully enjoyed her sleep and Sakura enjoyed being next to Sasuke. The Uchiha, however, was not overjoyed. In fact, he had developed an annoyed twitch in his left eye. Naruto glanced at him from her sleep-hazed eyes. She wondered if Sasuke could get activate his bloodline to use as defense against the vomit-eyed banshee sitting next to him. She had no lost love for any of the Uchihas except for Obito, but still she felt extremely sorry for the young Avenger. Naruto turned her head to the door, feeling someone approaching. The door slid open to reveal a man wearing the normal Jounin outfit. He had silver hair that appeared not to pay attention to the laws of gravity. He had a mask covering his lower face, and his hidden leaf forehead protector was covering his left eye. He reminded Naruto of a scarecrow for some reason. His right eye swept across the room looking at Sasuke, Sakura and Naruto. Then he put his hand under his chin in what Naruto thought was a thoughtful expression. My first impression of this team is I don't like you guys. He announced. Yeah, well, who the hell said we liked you either, Scarecrow? Naruto retorted in annoyance. Who the hell did this guy think he was? He was 2 friggin' hours late and then he has the nerve to go and say something like that. He's lucky that Naruto had just gotten some sleep, otherwise she would have gotten up and slugged the moron. She was cranky when she didn't get some sleep. Meet me on the roof. The late Jounin said before disappearing. Alright. Why don't you tell me your names, your likes and dislikes? Your hobbies and any dreams you have for the future? Their new sensei said as they took a seat on the roof. Why don't you go first, sensei, so we can see how it's done? Sakura asked, being ever the teacher's pet. Alright then. My name's Heikate. Kakashi. Naruto's eyes widened visibly at the name. My likes and dislikes are none of your hobbies are few. As for my dreams of the future, well, I haven't really thought about it much. That was pointless. All we learned are his name. Sakura muttered while Naruto frowned. The name Hada Kakashi was enough for her. Obito was always talking about the dude. In fact, he was the reason Obito wouldn't move on in the first place. Obito had said that Kakashi had felt so much guilt after Obito died that he couldn't let go of him. He wanted Kakashi to let go and be happy again. Until that happened, Obito would never move on. But Obito always went on about how cool the guy was and how he had given his Sharingan to him and now he was the famous copycat ninja, Kakashi of the Sharingan Eye. When Obito wasn't with her or Sho and Nai, he was watching Kakashi. You first, Pinky. Kakashi said, pointing a finger at Sakura. My name's Haruno Sakura. My likes are. She turned to look at Sasuke and let out a squeal that left Naruto's ears ringing. My hobbies are. She looked at Sasuke and let out another fangirl squeal that made Naruto want to get up and wring her neck. My dreams for the future are. She squealed again and Naruto swore no one but a pig had the vocal cords to squeal like that. My dislikes are Ino, Pig and Naruto. She finished with a glare at Naruto. I guess girls her age are more interested in boys than ninja training. Kakashi thought with a sigh. Naruto flipped Sakura the finger while she gazed at the clouds with a vacant look on her face. The boy with the hat on, you next. Kakashi's comment caused Sakura to laugh and even the corners of Sasuke's lips twitched slightly. Naruto glowered at Kakashi, who for the life of him couldn't figure out why his comment had spurred these reactions. Very funny, Scarecrow. Naruto said, her voice deadpanned while Kakashi just blinked down at her puzzled. What's funny? The clueless copy nin asked, causing a vein to form in her temple while Sakura laughed even harder and Sasuke tried to control the smirk that was forming on his face. I'm a girl, you twitless dick. The Jinchuriki stated angrily. Ah, my bad. Kakashi scratched the back of his neck looking sheepish. Don't apologize, Kakashi-sensei. It's not your fault Naruto can't dress herself right. Sakura was just itching to get slapped today, but for the time being Naruto ignored her comment. It was not a smart thing to commit murder with witnesses everywhere. Stick to the motto Kayunai had taught her. Never get mad, get even. My name's Uzumaki Naruto. You guys can call me Uzumaki. If you call me by anything else I won't respond. My likes and dislikes are none of your business, since I doubt any of you care. My dream for the future is to leave Konoha when I turn 16 and travel the world, so I suggest you don't get used to having me around because this is only temporary. Naruto leaned back on the steps of the roof and looked back up to the sky. Well, maybe not all girls have their heads in the clouds. But what exactly does she mean she's going to leave when she turns 16? I'll have to ask Hokage-sama about this later. Kakashi turned his gaze to last member of Team 7. The brooding one. My name is Uchiha, are many things that I hate and there aren't a lot of things I like. Also I have one ambition that I have no intention of leaving as just a revival of my clan and to kill a certain man. Sasuke stated ominously. Just as I thought, Kakashi thought heavily. The boy's an Avenger. What a fool, Naruto's Buji said, waking up from his nap. What do you mean? Naruto asked him. He wants to kill his older brother. The one who supposedly killed the Uchiha clan. Uchiha Itachi. Like I said, he's a fool if he thinks he can beat someone like that so easily. You sound like you know him. There was a strange silence where Naruto wondered if she had said something wrong to the fox. No, I wasn't the one who knew him. Kakashi's voice brought Naruto out of her conversation with the Ninetails fox before she could ask him what he meant. Alright, you three all have unique personalities. I like that. Kakashi told them. We're going to begin a mission starting tomorrow. What kind of mission is it, sensei? Sakura asked curiously. Survival training. Kakashi answered simply. Why are we doing training if it's a mission? Sakura demanded. We had plenty of training at the academy. Kakashi began to laugh, a very creepy laugh. Sakura and Sasuke looked at him strangely, not seeing what was so funny. Naruto didn't tear her gaze from the sky though. She knew what Kakashi was going to say. Obito had told her what had happened when he had graduated the academy. The pink-haired Kunoichi gave her sensei a strange look. What's so funny, sensei? Well, if I say this then I'm sure you three are going to be surprised. Kakashi informed them brightly. Out of 27 graduates only 9 are going to be, other 18 will be sent back to the other worlds. This training is going to be a very hard test with a dropout rate of 66. Sakura's face blanched, Sasuke's hands tightened into fists. Naruto was picking the dirt out of her fingernails disinterestedly. Boy. Are you listening to me, Uzumaki? Kakashi had enjoyed the faces of the other two, but this girl didn't even bat an eyelash. Naruto let out a long yawn which she tried to stifle by putting a hand over her mouth. She looked up and saw the scarecrow looking down at her. Oops, she must have missed something. Did you say something? A vein pulsed in Kakashi's temple hidden by his mask. The Jounin didn't get a chance to yell at Naruto though because Sakura spoke again. Then what was the final exam for? She yelled. That. It just picks out those who are qualified to become genin. Kakashi replied lazily. Anyway, I'm going to decide whether you pass or fail tomorrow at the training you shinobi equipment and meet at 5 AM. Meeting over. He ordered, preparing to leave. Haddock turned his head back in their direction suddenly, remembering he had to tell them something. Oh yeah. Don't eat breakfast. You're going to throw up if you do. Naruto stopped walking in her initial direction and started through another road that led into a forest where people usually didn't. She was beyond the borders of the forest, far enough not to be overheard by passerbyers. Naruto stopped. What do you want? She asked. If anyone had been passing by they would have thought that she was crazy because no one was there. Naruto saw a shimmer in front of her. The shimmering started to make out the appearance of a man. He had brown hair and black opal eyes that flashed slightly as he gazed at Naruto. He had a dimpled chain that made him look old for his age. He wore a yukata with a fan engraved on the back. His face radiated no kindness or anything that could be preconceived as a heartfelt emotion. Well? Demanded the girl of the ghost impatiently when he did not answer her question. Well, that is, the man began, but was apparently unable to form the correct sentences. Naruto gazed at the man who stood before her looking, could only guess one reason he would come to visit her. You want me to look after Sasuke? Naruto said it as more of a statement than a question. Sasuke's father glared at her for suggesting something like that, like anyone from his clan would need any protection from here. Sasuke is an Uchiha, he doesn't need protection. Especially from you. Then you came here for. To warn you? Fugaku snarled. Naruto laughed. Oh, I am so scared from the big bad Uchiha. What do you think you can do? You attract trouble like fleas to dogs. Sasuke signed up to be a ninja. He can't be held at fault for being placed on a team with someone who isn't even from this world. Shinobis handle shinobi problems, so you keep your freak friends and enemies away from my son. Fugaku stated, a warning hidden beneath those words. Naruto snorted in disgust. Your pampered little boy will get himself killed soon enough and I won't have anything to do with it. I fight my own battles. I could care less what you Uchihas do. Fugaku gave Naruto the famous Uchiha glare she had become accustomed to from Obito. I'm warning you Uzumaki, if even one hair is harmed on his head from an attack from one of those freaks, you'll, what? Naruto cut in, humored slightly by the Uchiha's threat. Well, you may have developed some competence in your ghostly abilities since I last saw you, but I can still perform an exorcism and have you away from this plane with a snap of my fingers. Fugaku's expression twisted into one of unadulterated hatred before it returned to his normal collected appearance. You said that you didn't care at all about any Uchiha affairs, didn't you? Naruto frowned, not liking the tone the head of the Uchiha clan was using. Last I checked, Obito was still an Uchiha. Fugaku continued. As a clan member, then Obito answers to the head of the family, which in this case is me. Danbark grabbed Fugaku by the neck and squeezed. Fugaku's eyes were bulging and he was trying desperately to remove Naruto's hand from his throat. Technically ghosts shouldn't feel pain since they didn't have bodies, but their minds remembered the pain they experienced while they were alive, so they could still feel pain. Although if you're an experienced ghost like Sho and Nai, you can block the pain out since it just comes from your mind. That wasn't the case with Fugaku though, because he had only been dead for 6 years. Don't you dare threaten him. If you lay so much as one finger on him, it's a one-way trip to hell for your entire family. Naruto hissed acidly. Her eyes had turned red, expressing her true fury. She tossed Fugaku away from her and turned around. Like I said, it'll be your entire family. That includes your 2 living sons. They'll join you in hell. The people of Konoha have no clue what I can do, but the dead of this village should know fully well what I am capable of. Naruto spat before walking off. Fugaku Uchiha. She hated that man the moment she had met him when she was 7. She had wandered into the Uchiha district by accident and Obito had come looking for her. When Obito had appeared, Fugaku had taken a look at the both of them and said the demon and the failure together. How fitting. Somehow seeing her first real friend looking so sad and worthless had struck a chord in Naruto. She had gotten mad at Fugaku and kneed him right in the groin. For a ninja and head of one of the most prominent clans in Konoha, he sure did cry pretty easily. Obito had grabbed Naruto and fled before the rest of the clan got over the shock of seeing their leader be put down by a 7-year-old girl. Needless to say, the Uchihas and Naruto had never been close friends after that. Naruto made her way through the streets heading to her apartment where she would no doubt find Obito and Nai whipping Sho's ass in Go Fish. A hilarious sight that would probably brighten Naruto's soured mood. Tadaima. Naruto pushed open her apartment door to find the first Hokage flinging cards at Obito and his younger brother, who were laughing on the floor hysterically, not even noticing the seriously pissed off Kage in front of them. Naruto smiled slightly at the sight. One day they would all disappear and she would be left completely alone. It was a thought that constantly gnawed at her heart, so she shoved it from her mind while closing the door and enjoying the sight of the polite, eloquent and diplomatic first Hokage curse at Obito and the second Hokage. Obito glanced Naruto's way and saw she had come home. Who's your new sensei? Haddock, Kakashi. Naruto pulled off her boots, gloves, jacket, kunai holster and hat. She plopped down on the bed that could barely fit her and sighed. If she was going to be staying in Konoha on a regular basis, then she would need to buy a new apartment with a made-up alias. There was no reason to stay in the suffocating place that was as big as half the bathroom in the academy. What do you think of him? Sho had forgotten his anger at the stupid game they had been playing when Naruto came in. The first thing he said when he entered 2 hours late was, and I quote, "I don't like you guys." Unquote. I couldn't agree more with him. Naruto pulled the covers to her shoulders and rested her head on the pillow. You're going to have to learn to work with them sooner or later, you know. Nidaime said, looking down at the fatigued blonde who didn't even seem to be paying an ounce of attention to him. You keep saying that because of that stupid Bell teamwork test he is going to give us tomorrow, right? Naruto asked, closing her eyes. How did you know? Nai began before cutting his sentence off with a sharp glance at Obito. Obito held up his hands in front of him in defense. I only told her because she said she would never become a ninja. How was I supposed to know that she would change her mind? Nidaime shrugged. It's one thing to know what the test is about, but to actually fulfill the requirements of that test will be a very hard thing for you, Naruto. I know you don't like depending on others, but Obito tugged on the first sleeve and pointed at Naruto, whose chest was heaving at a steady pace. Quietly, the 3 ghosts dematerialized so the demon carrier could sleep. They could lecture her tomorrow with the 2 hours Kakashi would take to come. Naruto sat up in a tree on the training field Kakashi had instructed them to be on at 5 am. Naruto had just arrived 5 minutes ago at 6:30. She had snuck into one of Konoha's record halls and made a copy of Kakashi's file for herself. It had said that Kakashi was always 2 hours late, so you had to tell him to come a couple of hours earlier than the mission time. Naruto shook her head in disgust at Sakura, who had just finished yelling at her female teammate for being she was trying to get Sasuke to go on a date with her. Sasuke, as usual, was ignoring her. Kakashi walked into the clearing to be greeted by "You're late." Courtesy of a pissed-off Sakura. "Well, you see, a black cat crossed my path and I had to." Kakashi was cut off by the string of kunes that he just had to dodge. "Do you know that it is rude to tell people to meet you at a certain time and then not show up?" Naruto was never a patient person. A bad quality that Sho had tried to fix by having her meditate for countless hours, but to no avail. Kakashi coughed nervously. He placed a clock on the tree stump and held out 2 bells. "Today's mission is to get one of these 2 bells from Kent. Will have no lunch." Kakashi pointed to the tree stump that the clock rested on. "I'm going to tie you there and eat lunch in front of you." Naruto smirked. She had already had breakfast. Sakura and Sasuke looked like they had actually listened to Kakashi and were looking at him with a hint of dread. "But wait, why are there only 2 bells?" Sakura asked. "Since there are only 2, at least one of you will have to be tied the log." Kakashi replied, smiling. "That person will fail since he didn't complete the mission. That person will go back to the academy. It might just be one or all 3 of can use your shuriken." He jingled the bells. "You won't be able to get these unless you have the will to kill me." "But that's too dangerous, sensei." Sakura objected. "Oh please. Do you really think that a team of genins are going to be able to land a scratch against a jounin? This test of the scarecrows reeks of some hidden meaning," Naruto said, giving a hint to her teammates. It was useless though, Sakura just glared at her and Sasuke hadn't paid any attention to a word she'd said. Kakashi though was staring at her in slight surprise. "Alright. Start as soon as I say go. Ready set go." Sasuke and Sakura quickly left looking for a hiding spot, but Naruto remained where she was. "Hey, aren't you a little weird compared to the rest?" Kakashi asked when she didn't disappear. "HMPH. Have you got a recent look of yourself in the mirror, Scarecrow?" Naruto glared at the jounin. The only thing weird here was his hairstyle. Scarecrow. It's Kakashi-sensei to you." Kakashi said. "Whatever you say, Scarecrow-sensei." Naruto said, grinning cheekily. Kakashi glared at her, then reached into his pouch and pulled out a book. It wasn't just any book though, it was Icha Paradise, a book that every female despised with a fashion. That's that perverted book that all the really desperate guys read because they can't score any dates." Naruto exclaimed, pointing an accusing finger at Kakashi. "You're not just a scarecrow, you're a perverted scarecrow." Desperate Kakashi appeared to have been very insulted. "I'm going to kick your ass and then I'm going to burn that book, you pervert." Naruto charged at him. She tried to sweep his legs from under him with a kick, but the scarecrow dodged. She aimed a roundhouse kick at his head, but he dodged. Naruto turned her head trying to figure out where he had gone when she heard a voice behind her. "Never let your opponent get behind you. Konohaga's secret to jutsu master art. 1,000 years of pain." Naruto felt a finger go up her ass before poof she exploded into a log with exploding tags all over it, much to Kakashi's surprise. He quickly tried to distance himself from the explosion, but 2 things happened at once. A black blur passed Kakashi and he heard his bells jingle and Naruto appeared above him, her fist aiming for his face. I. "Do you think Naruto got what we were trying to teach her?" Nai asked his brother and subordinate. "Doesn't look like she did." Sho observed from what he had watched so far. Naruto had just ran in recklessly without any apparent thinking. "Hey, come on, she'll work with Sasuke and Sakura to get those bells." Obito said, hopeful that Naruto wouldn't fail. Nai and Sho glanced at each other doubtfully. Obito bowed his head dejectedly. "She's so screwed." Naruto would have been delighted to know of the confidence her friends held in her. Kakashi sidestepped Naruto's punch. Naruto retracted her fist and landed gracefully on the ground. She winked at Kakashi and jumped up into a tree. Kakashi swore and checked his belt. He breathed a sigh of relief, both bells were attached to his bells. Naruto grasped the 2 bells from the black cat that was actually a transformed Kage Bunshin. "Boy, catch," was Naruto's only warnings as her second clone threw something her way. Naruto caught it with a grin. It was exactly what she had asked for. "Good work, you two." Naruto made a hand sign and both of clones disappeared. Damn you, you perverted scarecrow, why the hell am I the one tied to the long? Naruto yelled, swearing at the unperturbed sensei of hers. Because you tried to throw my lunch in the river and you keep calling me Scarecrow when I've told you it's Kakashi-sensei, or if that's too much then use Haddock-san. Kakashi replied. Kakashi translates to Scarecrow. It's not an insult, you know. Think of it as a type of an endearment. Naruto countered. Kakashi looked thoughtful for a moment before he said, then you won't mind me calling you fish cake or maybe dwarfy. Are you insinuating that I'm short? Kakashi nodded. Yup. I'm going to fucking kill you, you dick-headed Scarecrow. I am not short, I just haven't hit my growth spurt yet. Naruto didn't seem to take being called short by anyone other than Kyuubi very well. You all failed to get any bells. Kakashi said as Sakura and Sasuke listened with dread. Naruto was too busy cursing Kakashi's parenting to care very much. None of you need to return to the academy though. Sakura jumped up in excitement while Sasuke humphed at the news. Naruto glanced at Kakashi suspiciously though feeling a catch. You three should quit being ninjas at all. Kakashi declared. Sakura stopped jumping up in excitement. The smug look on Sasuke's face was erased. Naruto's face didn't change. Quit being ninjas? What do you mean? Sakura cried. It's because you three are just kids who don't deserve to be ninjas. Kakashi responded. Naruto had had enough by that point. She wouldn't be called a kid by anyone. Especially not this guy. Who are you calling kids, Dumbus? Naruto jingled the bells she gotten under the ropes that tied her to the log. I've got your bells right here. Hakushi's eyes widened in shock as he looked to his belt. On his belt, Naruto had switched the bells for a couple of pebbles. Sakura and Sasuke were also looking at Naruto in amazement. Well, so you did get the bells from me. But you only need one. What are you going to do with the other one? Kakashi inquired innocently enough, but Naruto knew he was testing her for this teamwork crap. She might as well get this over. Naruto tossed one bell to Sasuke and the other to Sakura. You two can have them. Being a ninja means more to you two anyway. I've failed 3 times already, one more time wouldn't matter. Sakura squealed in joy. She was going to be able to stay with Sasuke-kun. Sasuke looked at the bell and looked at Naruto, who was staring at the sky with a bored look on her face. He put the bell back in her hand with Kakashi watching the three of them. You got it, you keep it. Sakura looked at Sasuke and then to the bell. She also gave her bell back to Naruto. Sasuke-kun's right. You earned them, you should keep them. Naruto gave Sakura an incredulous look. Sakura had sounded halfway decent. Maybe Naruto had misjudged her. Sakura gave Sasuke a fleeting look. Naruto's sweat dropped. Guess she hadn't misjudged her at all. Sakura, Sasuke. You two failed to get the bell. Kakashi looked at his new students. So all 3 of you pass. What? Sakura screeched. But Naruto was the only one to get a bell. That's true. Kakashi admitted. But Naruto realized the true meaning of this test before either of you. She tried to help you before by giving you a hint to look underneath the underneath. You two didn't listen. Naruto was whistling softly looking up at the clouds. Kakashi smiled at Naruto. So Naruto, why don't you enlighten you two teammates to the true meaning of this test? Teamwork. Naruto muttered, not liking being put on the spot like this. She wasn't used to being complimented or praised for anything by anyone outside of Sho and Nai. That's right, teamwork. When Naruto gave up her bells for your sakes, it meant that she was willing to take the fall for you two. Since you two gave her back the bells, I passed all 3 of you instead of just her. Kakashi informed them. Hold on a minute. You mean to tell me that you would have passed me if they hadn't given the bells back? Naruto spluttered disbelievingly. Kakashi nodded. Yes. But I thought ninjas only did missions in 3-cell teams. Naruto said. That's true, but sometimes there are allowances. But it doesn't matter anymore since you all passed. Kakashi smiled at his new official team. Naruto looked like an anvil had just fallen her head. I could have been on my own team. So close. Why did they have to suddenly decide to be nice? Kakashi struck a pose. The training N7 will start doing missions starting tomorrow. Sakura and Sasuke followed Kakashi as he left the training ground. Hey, hold on a minute, untie me. Hello. Get your asses back here and untie me. Naruto yelled, struggling with the bonds. Teamwork my ass. Kakashi's going to pay for this. Naruto cut the rope and pulled something from her jacket. Kakashi. The Jounin looked back at Naruto and his eyes nearly popped out of his head. She was waving his Icha Paradise book with a lighter under it. Kakashi couldn't have moved faster if every Kunoichi and Konoha were after his blood. Naruto held the book away from him. You didn't untie me from the log, you were late, and worst of all, you called me short. Naruto ticked off the things that Kakashi had done to her. Hold on a minute. There might just be a way we can resolve this peacefully. Kakashi stammered, fearful of what she would do to his poor book. Too late. Naruto put Kakashi's book under the lighter. It became smothered in flames and Naruto dropped it to the ground. Kakashi dived after the book, trying to put out the flames. Naruto laughed at Kakashi. He looked like she had just strung his puppy. Naruto, you idiot. Someone groaned behind, turned to find Obito surveying the damage she had caused with a look of horror on his face. You better run, cause he's gonna kill you. Naruto. A voice said behind her. Naruto turned to look at Kakashi and paled. He looked like a lioness when someone had just messed with her, decided to take Obito's advice, and ran for it with Kakashi hot on her heels. Since you're too busy running for your life, I'll make a mental note for you. Never touch a pervert's itcha paradise. For it is scared in holy book. Ha 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 ha. You're going to die, brat. Kyuubi laughed. Oh fuck Buzz. Naruto walked through the familiar streets that led to her rundown apartment in the lower section of the village. Many people had questioned the Sandame's sanity when he had put a 6-year-old girl in the most dangerous section of the village. It was where all the bars and brothels were and where any illegal activities usually occurred. The reason the third had put her here was because the people around here usually didn't give a crap who or what you are. You pay for your stuff and stay out of other people's way, and for the most part they left you alone. The people around there also weren't the most law-abiding citizens, which was how Naruto was sitting in the bar right now, drinking sake without any word from the bartender. Naruto had come to an agreement with the bartenders around these parks. She paid for her drinks, and they didn't bother her about underage drinking. What you been up to, Naruto? The bartender asked his youngest customer, washing a glass with a rag. Being chased around the village by one of Itcha Paradise's most devoted fans. Was Naruto's terse reply as she took another sip from her sake. It burned her throat and filled her stomach. Alcohol may not affect, but she was going to be taking bathroom breaks all day. The bartender let out a bellowing laugh. I've been hearing about someone who went and burned the copy in Kakashi's Itcha Paradise and got chased all the way to the Hokage's office. I should have figured no one would do something like that but you. Bet you regret it now. Naruto's eye didn't even twitch as it would have under normal circumstances. That was because the liquor, instead of making her tipsy, had a surprising side effect. It made her patient to the point that she could be mistaken for a saint. That fact didn't settle the Shodaime and Nidaime though. They had told her if they ever found her drinking again, they would have her running laps till her legs fall off. Being threatened by two of the most powerful men in ninja history hadn't scared Naruto at all, because here she was on her 6th drink. I don't regret a thing. That idiot got what he deserved. Kakashi had chased her all the way to the Sandame's office. Naruto had to hide behind the Sandame to keep herself from being strangled by the scarecrow. The third called 3 squads of Anbu to stop Kakashi. Then Kakashi had proceeded with telling the Sandame of what Naruto had, that every male in the room had turned to Naruto with bloodlust shining in their eyes. Lucky for Naruto, there had been female Anbu who had slapped their male teammates when they had seen the glares they were directing at Naruto. It had provided a distraction, giving Naruto a chance to escape. That had been a week ago. Now Naruto and her precious teammates had been doing chores for Konoha's clients. Weeding gardens, finding cats, painting fences and washing laundry. Naruto had gone from being a world-renowned legend who made millions to a maid who made less than pocket change. A fact that Akio threw in her face every chance he got. There was also the glare that had been boring holes in her back on every mission, courtesy of Kakashi. He had stopped reading books in public, probably afraid Naruto would destroy them, and taken the job of making Naruto's missions as tedious as possible. Hell hath no fury like a pervert scorned, said the bartender sagely. You just made that up. Naruto took another swig of her drink. Anyway, what do you know about the Kopinin anyway? The bartender stroked his beard, looking thoughtful. Well, I know that his father was called the White Fang and was once as respected as the Sannin. What happened to him? Naruto asked, curious in spite of herself. When he was on a mission, he had to choose between his teammates' lives and the success of the mission. He chose the life of his teammates over the success of the mission, and it caused Konoha a heavy loss. The bartender's lips curled in disgust suddenly. Then the filth of this village treated the man like scum, never mind that the man was one of the strongest in this hellhole and had saved the village countless times. Soon even his own teammates abandoned him. With the entire village against him, he went insane. Later on, he committed suicide. Naruto swirled her glass, watching the liquid go back and forth. Was that how the shinobi life was like? You could become one of the strongest in the village and then with just a turn, one wrong decision, and everyone was against you. Then all that talk about teamwork and crap is just bull. Naruto asked. Ninjas say to look underneath the underneath. That applies to everything they do. They may say the most important thing is teamwork, but what they really want is for you to complete the mission successfully. If that's done, they don't really care if you live or die. He responded scornfully. The bartender was a burly-looking guy with huge muscles. He had a short curly beard and black curly hair. He had a slash through one of his brown eyes. Naruto had never heard the bartender. She could never remember his name because it was too freaking long mention anything about being a shinobi, but she was pretty sure he had been one at one point in his life. People usually worship them as gods rather, but the bartender had never once hesitated in telling Naruto about how much he hated shinobis. Anyway, it's you I am worried about. Naruto looked up, puzzled at this. I heard that you had just became a genin. He elaborated at her perplexed look. Don't worry about it. Naruto flashed him a smile. It's only temporary, it's not like I'd ever have a really big problem with my superiors if they told me to go slaughter a whole village. The bartender let out another bellowing laugh. When you'd be done with the poor fool he'd be wishing that he had asked you to kill him instead. Naruto looked at the clock on the wall and pulled out a few bills on the counter. I've got to go. I'll see you later. Don't forget tonight. It's karaoke night. The former shinobi reminded her. Naruto laughed. Wouldn't miss it for the world. I. Naruto was walking through the halls of a hospital. The smells of medicine and alcohol filled her nostrils. It was a good thing the alcohol she had was still keeping her from feeling too much, otherwise she would have been recalling all the times she had visited the emergency room at Konoha's hospital. But this wasn't Konoha's general hospital. It was a special infirmary. She turned down a familiar hallway, not even needing to count the door numbers. She could always tell which room she was in. The smell of jasmine always lingered in the room for some reason. Even though Naruto was sure the person in that room hadn't probably bathed with scented jasmine anything for years. Naruto stopped in front of a huge room. Naruto didn't bother to open the door, she wasn't allowed in. There was a one-way glass in the side of the room. It allowed you to see inside, but the women inside couldn't see out. The women inside didn't appear any older than 17. She had long silky black hair that cascaded down her back. The black-haired woman was staring at a wall in front of her, obstructing Naruto's view of her face. Naruto didn't need to see her face directly. Her face was forever engraved in Naruto's mind. The long black hair, the emerald eyes that had once crinkled with life and laughter, the strong jawbones, the full lips, and the slightly long but firm nose. If you had met the woman 13 years ago and looked at her, you could say she hadn't really changed. That was until you saw her eyes. The eyes that used to hold so much life had now transformed into an emptiness abyss of nothingness. Naruto clenched her fists that were deep in her jacket pockets, her ocean blue eyes becoming vacant, as if seeing something else. I destroyed that spirit. I destroyed her life. My stupid face broke her heart. All because of that stupid man. That bastard. Uzumaki-san. Naruto turned to face the doctor that had come to perform a checkup for the woman. How is she? Naruto asked, her voice betraying none of the inner turmoil she was feeling on the inside. Should have had more to drink. She thought wryly. Well, she has been eating her meals regularly since your last visit, the doctor began, but something about the doctor's demeanor unnerved her. He was very nervous, he kept shifting uncomfortably and leafing through his notes. Not very impressive behavior for an Anbu doctor to possess. She has yet to show any response to anything said to her, though. The doctor continued nervously. I wasn't talking about mental health. Naruto cut in impatient. I was talking about physical health. The doctor seemed even more nervous than before and started to readjust his glasses. Well, you see, that is. There's no need to scare the doctor, Naruto. A male voice said from behind her. The man nodded at the doctor. A dismissal the doctor gladly received. Naruto ignored the man behind her and placed her gloved hand on the glass window. She pushed her chakra web through her palm, trying to get some data from the women. She wasn't surprised by the data she got. The doctor's actions before had told her that there was something wrong. It's not your fault. The Anbu told her as gently as he could. Naruto turned and regarded the Anbu shrewdly. What are you doing here, Ibiki? She asked finally. I heard you were here and decided to come say hello. The #1 torture specialist replied. Naruto fixed him with a blank stare, not believing him for a minute. You always come visit her on the 10th of every month. I heard the news from the other doctor, and I thought it was better I told you the news, rather than having you kill the poor doctor. Ibiki said after seeing Naruto's disbelieving gaze. Well, you can go then. I can feel it. She's dying. Naruto turned back to the glass to watch the unmoving women. Your mother has been like this for 12 years, Naruto. Isn't it better that she just move on? When Naruto didn't answer him, he continued, you've brought medicine from all over the world by doing God knows what. You brought the best doctors here to help her, but it didn't work. The problem isn't her body. It's her mind. That events that took place that night shattered her mind. There is nothing you can do to help someone who won't help themselves. I know that. Naruto answered after a moment of silence. Congratulations. Ibiki said, grinning down at her so suddenly that if some alcohol hadn't still been in her system, she would have fallen over. He was clearly trying to change the topic. Naruto slowly processed what Ibiki had said, puzzled. What was he congratulating her for? One of Konoha's newest genins. I couldn't believe it until I heard some of the jounins talking with Kakashi. Ibiki patted Naruto's head. Naruto glared at him. She was not a dog you could go up and pet. Don't congratulate me on something so stupid. You know, it's really quite strange. What's strange? On the same day you become a genin when you have always said you are never going to be a ninja. Mizuki betrays the village by taking the scroll of sealing. You mean Oruka finds Mizuki, and just as Hess about to kill him, someone fills the clearing with sleeping gas. Then they put Mizuki in a Jinjutsu and incapacitate him. Ibiki explained to her, eyeing Naruto through his explanation. Naruto looked up at Ibiki with wide innocent eyes. Wow. So which Anbu did that? It wasn't an Anbu or any ninja from Konoha. Actually, when we took Mizuki for questioning, he couldn't even speak because he was so dramatized by what the Genjutsu had caused him to experience. What did he see? When we were finally able to get some words out of him, he said that he saw himself as the slave for the Kyuubi brat. He was clipping her toenails, making her meals, doing her laundry and providing entertainment. After that he went back into the fiddle position and wouldn't say any more. Naruto put her hand under her chin in what she thought was an innocent expression. Wow. This person must be a fan of mine. People have begun to say that Konoha has a guardian angel watching over us. The guardian angel, Naruto laughed. She was anything but an angel. As interesting as this conversation has become, I have to go. Later, Ibiki. Naruto, don't blame yourself. Ibiki said to her as she left the Anbus infirmary. I. Naruto was drinking some apple juice and munching on a bagel on the bridge that Team 7 usually met on before missions. Naruto wasn't worried about that though. She had sent a reinforced cage Bunshin in her place. They were probably off to find that stupid cat again. Naruto took the last piece of bagel in her mouth and washed it down with the rest of her juice. It was such a peaceful day out. Why the hell would she waste it doing chores for Konoha? The blonde sat down on the bridge swinging her legs between the poles. She gazed down at the flowing water longingly. Before she had become restricted to Konoha, Naruto would travel everywhere. Her favorite places were where the oceans were as blue as the sky and would stretch on for so many miles you couldn't see the end. Naruto. Someone yelled so loud that if Naruto hadn't been sitting on the bridge she would have fallen off. She turned her head to the left slightly to be met with a pissed off Obito. What? He repeated angrily. What do you mean what? You're supposed to be with your team. Oh? That. Naruto leaned back on the bridge. I already sent a cage Bunshin for that. I know that. Huh. How do you know it wasn't me? It was obvious. Your clone kept ignoring me. I usually ignore half the things you say. Your clone was really polite. Naruto's eye twitched. When Sakura said something to her, she didn't get up and try to kill her like a homicidal psycho. The twitch in her eyebrow went down to her eye. She also weeded the weeds instead of ripping out all the flowers like an idiot, the way you did last time. Naruto's hand began to shake violently. Oh yeah, what really gave it away was when everyone was taking a break, the clone didn't wolf down her food like a wild animal. So let me get this straight so I can beat you accordingly. I'm rude, a violent bitch and a pig. She yelled, grabbing Obito by scruff of his shirt. I meant in a good way. Obito said, helplessly flailing his arms trying to escape from Naruto's grip. Well, he really didn't call you any of those things, Naruto-san. Said an amused feminine voice from behind them. Rin. Obito exclaimed, happily freeing himself from Naruto's slightly lessened hold. Rin was Obito's teammate. She had been a medical kunoichi. She had died shortly after Obito and had remained on as a ghost for the same reasons as Obito. She was a relatively plain girl in Naruto's eyes. She had plain short brown hair and round brown eyes. Two strange markings adorned her outfit, was similar to Sakura's, except it was a separate shirt and skirt and a different color. Naruto didn't see what was so special about her. She hadn't been as strong. Her performance on Obito's last mission was any indication. But Naruto knew Obito had a crush on her. He still did, but sadly his feelings weren't returned. Rin loved Kakashi. It was a very depressing love triangle. So what are you doing here, Rin? Obito asked curiously, smiling at Rin. Well, it's about Kakashi. Rin revealed, not noticing the slight dim in Obito's eyes. Naruto however did notice and stuffed her hands in her pockets to keep herself from strangling the dead girl. Really? Of all the insensitive stupid things to come to him with. And she knows he loves her, she thought indignantly, cursing the girl inwardly with words that would have put a sailor to shame. What's wrong? Obito asked, trying to mask his disappointment. Rin glanced at Naruto and Obito followed her gaze. Naruto, could you give us a minute? No problem. I was just leaving to find my team anyway. Later. Naruto walked away, being careful to keep her hands away from anything she could tear apart. Naruto walked in angry strides toward the direction in which her age Bunshin had informed her the team would be at. The nerve of that jerk. He says all those foul things and doesn't even give me a chance to beat the ghost shit out of him. Then that girl pops up and suddenly I'm second class. Naruto thought angrily. Green isn't your color. The Demon King's amused voice did not help her foul mood. I am not jealous. I have never been jealous in my entire life. Why would I be jealous of Rin? You really are dense, aren't you? Dense? How am I dense? Figure it out yourself, baka. Who are you calling a baka, you baka? You're a baka, so I called you a baka. How am I a baka? You can't even see what's right in front of your face. Naruto looked in front of her and saw a bunch of streets with villagers turning to glare at her as she walked by. What does that have to do with anything? The villagers are always glaring at me. If the Kyuubi had enough room in his cage to fall over he would've. But he didn't, so he settled for slapping his forehead with his claw. You half-witted primate. Do you have rocks for brains? I didn't mean look in front of your face literally. The yondaime stuck me in the densest human to ever walk the realm. I'm not. R2. I'm not. Or watch out for the. Naruto too caught up with her argument with the fox slammed right into the thing in front of her and fell backward with a little person on top of her. Wow. Naruto Ni-chan, you really are a girl. Said the perverted brat as he snuggled into Naruto's chest. Wham. Itai. Konohamaru cried as he nursed the bruise on his head. Naruto took her foot and slammed into the brat's head. Konohamaru had a reunion with the floor. Remove your foot from the honorable grandson's head. Ibisu shouted at her as he arrived on the scene. Naruto smirked at Ibisu, who took a step back remembering their last meeting. It had been the first time Naruto had met Konohamaru. The runt had taken to following her. Ibisu had tried to pry Konohamaru from Konoha's favorite pariah. Then Naruto had used the closet pervert's weakness against him. She had grabbed a copy of Icha Paradise from the bookstore and had Konohamaru read a piece from the book. The pervert had spurted blood from his nose and fainted. Naruto had fallen into a hysterical fit of laughter that immediately ended when Konohamaru had asked her what the book was talking about. Naruto at that point had decided, like now it was time for her to leave. Naruto removed her foot from the third's grandson and flicked his forehead. Then she took her leave before she could receive a lecture from Ibisu. Maybe I'll send you guys to do the groceries in another city. The Hokage suggested. No. Was the loud objection from the only person brave or rude enough to go against a Hokage. Naruto glared at the person who was responsible for putting her in this stupid mess. There is no freaking way I am going on another one of these stupid baby missions. Naruto, you are still a novice ninja. All ninjas have to start out with simple missions to gain experience. Iruka yelled at her. Naruto glared at Iruka. I should have just let Mizuki kill him. Naruto, it seems that I am going to have to explain to you how missions work. The third then started to explain how the missions were ranked and distributed. Yesterday I had miso ramen, so today maybe I should order barbecue teriyaki, Naruto said, talking to herself and completely ignoring the third. Boy Naruto, are you listening to me? Sarutobi shouted. Kakashi rubbed his head in embarrassment while Sakura and Sasuke looked at Naruto disapprovingly, even though they inwardly agreed with her. Naruto walked up to the Hokage and cupped her mouth. Listen, old geezer, if you don't us a decent mission, then I will be forced to tell every female in this village that their respected Hokage is a closet pervert with every copy of Icha Paradise. Also the one who let the poster boards and advertisements for that book to be allowed in the village. You wouldn't dare. The third hissed back. I have pictures and I have the official documents. Naruto winked at the flustered old man who was coughing nervously. He wasn't delusional or naive enough to believe Naruto wouldn't carry out her threat. The third shivered in his robes. He would have the entire female population after his blood. Alright, then Team 7, I have the perfect mission for you. The Hokage looked in the direction of the door. Please come in. An old man wearing commoner clothes with a straw hat entered. He had a beer bottle and appeared slightly drunk. Team 7, your mission is to escort Izuna-san to the Land of Waves. When you reach the Land of Waves, you are to stay and protect the bridge builder until the bridge he is in the middle of constructing is completed. The Hokage stated. These guys are supposed to protect me. They don't look like a bunch of brats, especially the shortest one with the dumb look on his face. The bridge builder commented. The kunai whizzed past the drunk old man, awaking him from his drunken stupor. The kunai had missed his genitals by centimeters. I'm a her, Dumbus, and I am not short. I know alcohol has fried what little brain cells in your head that haven't been overcome by old age, but do try to contain your joy at having such wonderful, kind, generous and great people like me to escort you. Naruto said, smiling up at the frightened old man. Kakashi was at the moment wondering something. Wonderful. Sakura was looking at the blonde with disbelief. Generous. Sasuke's face hadn't changed. Great. The Sandaime and Iruka just sweat dropped, thinking kind. The poor bridge builder looked like he was about to pee in his pants from the fright Naruto gave him. So Kakashi decided that the team was to be dismissed and they would meet up again at gates at 7 in the morning, which meant that Kakashi wouldn't be there until 9. Dream mode. Naruto opened her eyes slowly. She saw a village surrounded by water. But she was being drawn to the center of the village where people were gathering. Daddy. Naruto heard the cry from a young boy who looked no older than 7. Her gaze was directed before him to look at a man who was tied to a pole with armed men surrounding. Man looked young with an X-shaped scar on his chin. Other than that, he appeared to be just a regular fisherman, Naruto deduced by his clothes. Upon closer inspection, Naruto noticed with revulsion that those men had cut the injured man's arms off. The man looked up at what Naruto guessed was his son and grinned. That surprised Naruto more than anything. It looked he men around him were getting ready to burn the guy and he was still fighting from the inside. He was trying to send his courage to the townspeople around that wasn't giving up. Naruto wanted to help the man. She tried to move forward but her body wouldn't move. She tried again, but it was as if someone had glued her to the open her mouth to let out a scream of frustration, but it seemed that her vocal cords had been muted as well. A short fat man came behind the armless man. He was wearing an expensive tux. He appeared to be of the higher class, judging from his clothes. "This will be the punishment of anyone who opposes me, Gatu," the fat man declared. He took a torch and lit it and threw it under the man's feet. Naruto could only look in horror as the flames slowly consumed the poor man with his son watching. "Daddy." The boy's cry for his father was the last thing she heard as she was swept out of her dream phase. And dream, Naruto shot up in her bed so fast she could have swore she had touched her face and noticed there were beads of sweat rolling down her face. Her chest was heaving like she had run from Konoha to Suna and back. "Naruto, are you alright?" A worried voice asked her from her right. Naruto looked up and screamed and fell from the bed. "What are you guys doing here? Watching you scream, moan and thrash. That must have been some dream." The Nidame's eyes were filled with wicked amusement. It took a while for Naruto to grasp the meaning of that sentence. "You pervert." She muttered. She saw where the Sandame got it from. The Nidame laughed. His laughter was cut short though as his big brother smacked him upside the head for his pervertedness. Naruto looked around trying to find something. "Where's Obito?" Naruto asked, not seeing him anywhere. The two Hokages pointed to something underneath Naruto that was struggling to move. Naruto yelped and got off the floor and Obito and sat on the bed. "How much do you weigh?" Obito groaned as he took a step back though as he saw the glare Naruto was sending him and the tightening of her fist. Now children." The Shodame sighed and turned to Naruto. "What happened to you?" Quickly Naruto told them of her weird dream and how she had been unable to move or speak. "That's weird," the Nidame said finally. "Do you think it was a premonition?" "I don't know, but I've never had a premonition of people I don't know or a premonition when I was asleep," she answered. "That man said his name was Gatu, correct?" the Shodame asked. At Naruto's nod he continued. "Ask your friend Akio if he has any information regarding the man." Naruto pressed on her first earring on her left ear. A visor appeared across Naruto's eyes and a communicator near her mouth. "Oi, Akio, are you there?" There was the sound of shuffling and then Naruto, "Hey, what's up? I was wondering if you knew anything about a guy named Gatu." "Hold on and let me check my database." Akio said he sounded happy. Naruto guessed it was because he wasn't going to be doing much anytime soon and was probably bored out of his wits. "Well, this Gatu guy is a businessman in your area," Akio informed her. "Then if he is from this region, you don't have any info on him." Naruto tried to contain her disappointment. She had wanted to pay a visit to the man and show him why burnings at the stake are outdated. "HMPH. I never said that," Akio said smugly. "But I thought researcher information on anything to do with shinobi countries was only allowed by the council members." Naruto said, her brows knitted in a frown. "It is, but since when has either one of us ever paid attention to any rules?" Naruto grinned at that. That was had broken every rule in the academy and even had a bunch of rules added because of them. "Besides, both my parents are in the council. Remember, if anyone were to find out I knew the information, I could just say I heard my parents talking." "So what do you have on this creep?" "Well, this guy owns one of the biggest shipping companies in the shinobi countries. He is a multi-billionaire, one of the richest guys in the course. On the black market he deals with company and country takeovers, drugs, fraud, robbery, blackmail, murder, and you know the kinds of things people let rich snobs get away with every day. Has he been doing anything of recent?" "Well, it says here that he has been trying to secure the shipping lane in Wave, has initiated a hostile takeover there." "Did anyone try to go against him?" "There was this one guy that did. He was called the hero of the country, but he was killed by the scumbag's name was Kaiza. He was a fisherman who had come to Wave 3 years back. But why so curious about this stuff anyway?" "I got a mission to Wave today. We are supposed to escort this guy named Tazuna to Wave." "Tazuna? That's Kaiza's father-in-law. He is in the process of constructing a bridge that will free the country from Gatu's control. So is the Vixen going to make an appearance in the land of waves?" Naruto bit her lip and thought. The Vixen was a legend all over the world except in the shinobi countries. She kept away from the shinobi countries for many reasons. The wave country was right in the middle of the countries. Revealing herself to the shinobi countries would mean that all the countries would be on the lookout for her. It would make her job a lot harder. It would especially be bad if her identity was revealed. "I don't know yet. Sorry, Akio, I have to go." Naruto pressed her earring again and the visor and communicator disappeared. "The guy in my vision is connected with my new mission." Naruto told them of the mission to Waves and of what Akio had just said. "This isn't good," the Shodame said after she had explained. Naruto responded deadpanned. "No, I mean this mission is beyond C rank," the Shodame told her, frowning. "How do you know that?" Naruto asked, cocking her head to the side. "People with access to lots of money usually hire ninjas to do their dirty work. This Gatu person probably already knows that Tazuna went to get ninja help, but because the wave country is in such turmoil, the man didn't have enough money to pay for a mission higher than C. Tazuna probably knows he is going to have ninja after him. That puts your team in a bad position," the Nidame explained to her. "But we know that you can take care of yourself." The Shogi interrupted. But it's not you we're worried about. Picture if your opponents are a group of Jounin ninja, how do you think Sakura and Sasuke are going to fare? How do you think Kakashi is going to fight when he has to worry about his students? Naruto grimaced. As much as she didn't like her new team, she didn't want them to be killed on their first mission outside the village. People would blame her for it. There is also the problem of your powers. The first continued. Your visions have never happened when you are asleep and you have never seen what has happened but what is going to happen. It means your powers are growing again. It's a good thing that visions aren't really a dangerous active power. Obito piped up. Remember when she was learning how to use ice? Both Hokages flinched at the last power development. I didn't mean to freeze you guys. I didn't think it would work on ghosts. Naruto spluttered. It didn't look like you were so cracked up about when you thought us out half a day later. Obito muttered. Naruto's hand tightened and she swung her fist in Obito's direction, but it never made contact because the Nidaime had caught her fist while Obito went to hide behind the Shogi. Punch him later, Naruto. The Nidaime offered to Obito's outrage. Right now we have to find out what's up with you. It wouldn't be good if you get a flash in the middle of a look it up in that book of yours. Naruto scowled darkly at Obito who was using the Shogi as a human get him later. Naruto withdrew the book from her cabinet and set it in front of her on the bed. Just as she was about to open it, it opened itself and flipped through hundreds of pages in seconds to land on the page that would explain Naruto's dilemma. The book's haunted. Obito whispered. It's a magical book that's connected with my ancestors. They were just giving a hand. Naruto said it casually, but inside she was relieved. She had always feared that her ancestors would reject her because of the way her mother had betrayed the clan, but it seemed that was not the case. The power of premonitions. This power is neither rare nor common. Many magical beings are sent future warnings of dangers to prepare themselves, that is the extent to most. There are those who become adept at this field and their powers will expand. They will be able to see into people's pasts. As the power of premonitions grows, so do the visions which the users see. For example, if the user were to see someone being stabbed in the heart, the person experiencing the vision would also feel as if their hearts are being stabbed. This could later turn into the power of empathy. The users of this gift are deeply connected with the spiritual realm. Especially when asleep. They may experience visions if someone from a different plane is trying to contact them or if they are expected to come in contact with this person soon. Naruto looked up after finishing reading and swallowed the lump that had formed in her throat. The feeling of having your heart ripped out was not a pleasant, she was sure. As for it maybe turning into empathy, she had heard tales of people going insane because of that. Naruto, I don't like the look on your face. Obito stated, clearly accepting bad news. Naruto sighed and told them what the book had said. It was written in English, so it was like looking at chicken scratch for them. But it's really no worry, I mean you guys will be right there. Naruto said. Well actually no. The Shogi corrected. His younger brother and Obito looked at him in surprise. You need to get used to your team, Naruto. You guys are going to be together for the next 3 years. If we're there you won't pay them a second glance. He said as gently as possible. Naruto's chin trembled and she put her head in her hands and began to cry to the Shogi's disbelief. You just want to get rid of me. Naruto muttered between sobs. Way to go, Nikki. You went and made her cry. What kind of sick twisted man are you to make a sweet little girl cry? The Nidaime shook his head in disgust while his brother shot him a glare. Naruto, come on. Please don't cry. The Shogi said as soothingly as he could. When it didn't work he just settled for the only thing that would make her stop. We'll go with you on your mission. Naruto looked up at him with tear-rimmed puppy dog eyes. You promise? He promised. Naruto launched herself at him and hugged the life out of him. Thanks Shonai-chan. You're the best. She told him as he patted her gold locks. Naruto shot the Nidaime a victory sign, while the Shogi's back was Nidaime gave her a thumbs up in return. Obito just stared at them in disbelief, not believing the first Hokage, the creator of Konoha, one of the strongest shinobis to have ever lived, had been conned by fake tears. No one had ever given in to him when he cried. Not even his own mother. Figures it's a girl thing. Naruto smirked to herself. Crying on command is something they should teach in the academy. It comes in damn handy. Naruto and her team walked with a bridge builder through the path that would lead them to Wave. As they crossed a bridge, Naruto noticed a puddle on the ground. She saw Kakashi's gaze briefly turn to the puddle before returning to the path. So he had noticed it too. As they traveled a little further away from the puddle, Naruto's senses spiked. The two ninjas had emerged from their puddle. They quickly surged forward and wrapped their chains around Kakashi. They pulled the chains and tore Kakashi to pieces. Sakura screamed in horror, thinking that Kakashi had been killed. The two black cloaked ninjas went after Naruto next. Naruto jumped out of the way. Sasuke shot a shuriken at the missed shinobi's chains, then he sent a kunai flying into the hole of the shuriken, effectively pinning the chains to the tree. Sasuke jumped up on top of the two surprised Chunin's metal hands and kicked out, severing their tie with the chains. The demon brothers then launched themselves at Izuna. Sakura, who had regained some wits, stood ready in front of Tazuna with a kunai. Sasuke inserted himself in front of Sakura and in the demon brothers' path. The brothers never had a chance to get a crack at Tazuna because two Narutos sent them flying into the air. Then the two Narutos leaped up after the brothers and kicked them in the abdomen and sending them into the ground. The impact in which they landed created a small crater, showing just how powerful Naruto's kicks had been. Naruto stood on top of one of the demon brothers and her Kage Bunshin stood on the other one. Both of them unconscious. Mama. That was excellent work, you three. Kakashi emerged from the S1 visible eye crinkled at Naruto. Naruto, I didn't know you could perform the Kage Bunshin no jutsu. Naruto's Bunshin disappeared with a poof. Naruto slung both of the brothers on her shoulders and threw them with no amount of gentleness at the tree. Where she proceeded to tie them up, ignoring Kakashi's comment and the stares of her teammates and the bridge builder. Naruto mentally cursed herself for her carelessness. She had completely forgotten that the Kage Bunshin no jutsu was a Jounin level kinjutsu. These guys are Chunin level ninjas from the Hidden Mist, are ninjas known to keep fighting no matter what the cost. Kakashi announced after Naruto was through tying them up. How were you able to detect our actions? One of the mist ninjas asked Kakashi. They had apparently regained consciousness. It hasn't rained for the past few days and it's sunny outside, a puddle shouldn't exist. Kakashi explained. Azuna inclined his head toward Kakashi from under his straw hat. Why did you let the kids fight when you knew that? If I was up to it, I could have killed these two in the blink of an eye. Kakashi said. But I needed to know who the real target for these two were. Azuna looked up at this. What do you mean by that? Kakashi turned to face Azuna. In other words, were you the one being targeted or was someone from our ninja group being targeted? We have not heard anything about you being targeted. By request was to protect you from armed groups like gangs and is a mission that is above job was to support and guard you until the bridge was ninja or our enemy, then this would have been an expensive B rank mission. Tazuna glanced guiltily at the floor, knowing he had been caught in his lie. It looks like you have your reasons, but it only troubles us if you lie and your request wasn't part of the mission. This mission is out of our league. Sakura entered. Let's quit. She said it so pathetically Naruto wanted to slap her. Did she think that just because she felt like it she could throw in the towel just like that? Someone needed to teach her the world she had chosen to live in wasn't like that. It wasn't a game you could quit anytime you feel like. Yes, let's quit and run back with our tails between our legs like cowards. Naruto sneered at her. Aka, this mission is way out of our league. Weren't you listening to the Hokage before? This mission is a Jounin level mission. Sakura argued. So? Naruto drawled. You're such a brat. Do you think just because you feel like it, you can just throw in the towel? We accepted this mission. We will complete this mission. You chose to be a ninja, so I'll warn you now. There are lots of times when clients leave out mission details or altogether lie about it, but real shinobi can't just quit in a battle where their teammates lives and the lives of innocent people hang by a thread. The ones that do quit will never get anywhere as a shinobi and will probably get killed on a real simple C rank mission. The ones that don't quit may end up getting killed, but at least they died with honor and not like a coward. We said we'd take the old man and help him finish his bridge, and that's what I'll do because I won't go back on my word. That will be my way of the ninja. By the end of Naruto's speech everyone was looking at her speechless. Who knew she had guts to back up that insolent tongue of hers? Sasuke smirked. The dope is right. We agreed to take on this mission so we should finish what we started. Sasuke-kun Sakura mumbled in shock, not believing he had agreed with Naruto about something. Suddenly Naruto whacked Sasuke on the head. Don't call me dope, parakeet head. Sasuke glared at Naruto, but stopped as he noticed Naruto's eyes begin to glaze over. Oi, dope. Naruto was on a bridge that was enshrouded with mist. She saw her and Sasuke trapped by someone wearing an Anbu mask. He was using ice mirrors to teleport himself and shoot needles at them. Sasuke and Naruto were covered in needles. Naruto saw the Anbu person take aim at her and launch those needles. Sasuke pushed her out of the way and took the needles. He slumped backwards, dead into Naruto's arms. As fast as the vision had come it was gone and Naruto was experiencing the after effects. Which consisted of nausea, a headache and a loss of balance. Which was why she was sitting on her bum with everyone looking at her, as if she had just announced she was in love. Sasuke. Take a picture dope, it will last longer. Naruto hadn't realized it before, but she was staring at the parakeet-headed Uchiha. This was the guy that was going to save her life at the cost of his life. Oh yeah. Hell had definitely frozen over. And? Thanks to all my reviewers. Now I am taking a poll here to decide whether or not to kill Haku. You better vote now or it will be too late by next chapter. So review people. Tell me what you think and send me some suggestions for the story. I promise that if you review you won't end up contracting a deadly disease or dying from cardiac arrest. On another note, happy holidays people. Preview for next time, Ghost can really possess people. Sasuke, pervert. You're the man from my vision. Then he jumped in front of me and took the hit. Then he fell back dead in my arms. Naruto was telling Obito and the Nidaime what she had seen. Naruto had made a deal with the Shodaime. At least 2 of them would come if she called for help. If it was a real emergency then all of them would come. So you are saying Sasuke is going to die saving you? The Nidaime's eyebrows rose. I thought he hated you. I know. Obito suddenly exclaimed. Naruto and Nidaime turned to face him. He is secretly madly in love with you, but he hasn't had the courage to tell you, so when the needle is aiming for your heart, Naruto's fist crashed into Obito's face and he went flying. The Nidaime just shook his head sadly. Naruto had been wanting to hit him since yesterday and he just had to go and piss her off again. Well, at least Obito will phase through all the trees he was sent flying through. Uzumaki, what are you doing? Some asked entering the clearing. Shouldn't you be getting wood for the fire? Eh? Scarecrow? Naruto said looking to where Kakashi leaned against the tree. What were you doing? Kakashi repeated. Naruto laughed nervously, rubbing the back of her head. She sent a helpless glance towards the Nidaime. He shrugged. You were swatting a mosquito. He suggested weakly. Just getting rid of some pesky mosquitoes. Naruto answered her sensei. I see. You're swatting invisible mosquitoes when you should be getting firewood. Kakashi clearly wasn't buying it. Naruto shrugged and went to pick up some wood for the stupid fire, with Kakashi watching her. So you want to tell me who taught you the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu? Kakashi asked after a few minutes of silence. Naruto froze for a moment before resuming her task. She couldn't tell him, hey, I was trained by the King of Demons and the first and second Hokage, so what could you accept? Well, you see, one day as I was walking a black cat crossed my path. Being the young naive child I was back then, I continued on the same road. Naruto stood with her firewood and headed in the direction of the camp. Then out of nowhere a vicious man-eating clown attacked me. I thought I was a goner until these 2 nice old men came along with their loudmouth grandson. The Nidaime and Obito glared at her. I'm not old. Nidaime huffed indignantly, never mind that he was over 100 years old. And I am not loudmouthed. Obito yelled at her. They saved me. Naruto went on, ignoring the 2 pissed off ghosts behind her. Of course, then they made me do all the house chores and was horrible. You thought it was alive the way it moved. Anyway, as a parting gift they taught me the Kage Bunshin no. That day forward I learned to never walk across a black cat's path. Naruto glanced back at Kakashi to see his expression. Naruto was surprised to see his face was sent in a grim line instead of the usually cheerful face he put on. Well, she was a bad liar anyway. She sighed softly. Relax, Kakashi. Konoha's resident demon has promised to be on her best behavior. I won't hurt anyone. I gave my word to the Sandaime. That startled Kakashi. That she would refer to herself like that so simply and then assume that he had been asking because he deemed her a threat. When in reality he had only asked because he had wanted to know how advanced she really was. It seemed Naruto didn't trust him at all. Naruto, that wasn't, he began, but stopped since they had reached the camp. Naruto gave the firewood to Sakura and sat down. Kakashi sighed. It looked like he would have to talk with his youngest student later. Tazuna-san, before the boat gets to shore there's something I need to ask you. Kakashi said, studying Tazuna with a critical eye. The identity of the ones who are after you and why they are after you. Or we can call this mission off when we get to shore, Tazuna-san. He added, his tone polite but holding a hint of threat. Naruto looked at the water's murky depths as Tazuna explained Wave's crisis. It was the same thing Akio had told her. But I don't understand. He's a dangerous man that you says. Did you hide that fact when you came to us? Kakashi asked after everyone had grasped what the situation was. Scarecrow, honestly, use your brain. Wave is a country that is being controlled by a money-hungry tyrant. Do you think they are going to have the money to afford a B rank mission, much less an A rank one? Naruto said before Tazuna had a chance to reply. If you quit your mission, after I land I'll be killed for sure. Tazuna looked up from under his hat. But there's no reason for you to blame yourselves. Only my cute 8-year-old grandson will cry and cry and cry some more. And my daughter will only hold a grudge against Konoha Ninja and live a lonely life forever. But it's not your fault. The old bridge builder added after a moment. Naruto coughed into her hand, smothering a laugh. This guy reminded her of her grandfather. They both knew how to milk it by the looks of it. Tazuna had hooked her team with that guilt speech of his. I guess it can't be helped. We'll continue escorting you. For a former Anbu, Kakashi was a real sucker. That's good to hear. The old man pretended to be relieved, but Naruto saw him give himself a victory sign and laughed silently to herself. Yup, this guy was exactly like her grandfather. They had departed from the boat and were on their way to Tazuna's house. Naruto's nose prickled. She rubbed it in annoyance. She could already feel someone was here without her nose bothering her about it. Her skin tingled, giving her goosebumps. Her senses were all on high alert. Naruto didn't have to look up to know someone was here and he was watching them from the trees. Naruto felt something slicing the air coming towards them and took cover before Kakashi could say duck. Sakura and Sasuke had only to swerve to the side to avoid the hit. It nearly hit Tazuna, who managed to avoid it at the last second. The huge sword embedded itself into a tree. A man with a hidden mist forehead protector appeared on the hilt of the sword. "Oh, my, you are Mamachi Zabuza, the exiled ninja of the hidden mist." Kakashi remarked as casually as if he were talking about which volume of Icha Icha was coming out next. "I'm guessing you're Kakashi of the Sharingan Eye." Zabuza commented as he gave Kakashi a look over. "Sorry, I'll need you to hand over the old geezer." Kakashi lifted his forehead protector from over his left eye, revealing the fabled Sharingan. Sasuke glanced at Kakashi surprised, recognizing his clan's famous Taijutsu. "Everyone, form the swastika formation. Protect Azuna-san." Kakashi ordered. "Don't join the battle. To not interfere with the battle is teamwork. I'm honored that I can see the Sharingan I've heard so much about." Mist started to seep in the clearing. Zabuza crouched down on his knees. "Enough chit-chat. I have to kill that old geezer right away." Team 7 quickly did as Kakashi had ordered them to do before. Zabuza pulled his sword out of the tree and jumped down on the water. He made a hand sign and seemed to be swallowed up by the mist. He disappeared. Sakura exclaimed. "Sensei, what is he?" Mamachi Zabuza was in the hidden mist village's Anbu. He was known for his silent killing techniques. Kakashi stood in front of them, figuring that Zabuza would want to eliminate him first. "Silent?" Sakura repeated fearfully. "Just as the name suggests, it's a killing technique that's executed in a flash, and without as possible you'll be dead before you even realize I cannot use my Sharingan to its fullest. Don't let your guard down." Kakashi explained. Naruto narrowed her eyes at him in annoyance. There was a jounin out there that was about to use that technique on them, and he's busy giving lectures. "But if you fail, you're only going to die." The copy nin added as an afterthought. "How can you say that so carefree?" Sakura shouted at him. Naruto wished they would just shut up. She was trying to get a read on this guy with her chakra web. She had found him, but he is moving too fast for her web to keep up. But Naruto could guess the way he would appear. "The mist is getting thicker." Naruto whispered to herself. Her fighting instincts were on the rise. Zabuza was coming. Naruto willed her body not to move. She was probably a match for Zabuza, but she had been cautioned by the Shade men and Nidame to keep her ability secret. As irritating as it was, she couldn't allow herself to fight above a genin's level. 8 points. Zabuza's voice rang out throughout the clearing, not seeming to come from any direction. "The larynx, spine, lungs, liver, jugular vein, kidney, and heart. Now, which vital organ do you want to get struck at?" Kakashi put his hands in a seal, and chakra started pouring out of him, moving the mist away from, could feel Sakura and Sasuke's emotions easily. They were as expected terrified. This was their first encounter with an opponent with such bloodthirst. Naruto wasn't fazed at all by the killing intent radiating from the mist-concealed ninja. She had felt worst. She was however at a disadvantage. She had fought demons, witches, wizards, vampires, werewolves and various other dangerous creatures. She had never really fought with a ninja before, even though she was trained in Genjutsu, Taijutsu and Ninjutsu. She wasn't accustomed to a ninja fighting style. Naruto saw from the corner of her eye Sasuke's hand trembling with a kunai in hand. An avenger valued life above all so that he could complete his goal. Sasuke couldn't stand to feel the bloodlust of two jounins. The feeling that your life is in someone else's hands. "Don't worry. I'll protect you three with my life. I won't let anyone on my team die." He turned to smile at them. "That isn't what you told Obito the day he died." Naruto was surprised at her bitterness. It wasn't Kakashi's fault. Obito had made his own choice. It had been his life or Kakashi's. He had chosen Kakashi's. Then why did she feel such an unquelling anger at seeing the eye that was Obito's with Kakashi? "I don't know about that," Zabuza said, reappearing in between them at a perfect position to chop off Tazuna's head. "It's the end." Zabuza lifted his sword to strike. Kakashi sprang forward, stabbing Zabuza in the stomach. Naruto knew that wasn't Zabuza because instead of blood coming forth, water was coming from the wound. The Zabuza in front of Kakashi dissolved into water, and the Zabuza that had appeared behind Kakashi cut him in half with his sword. Kakashi also dissolved into water. The real Kakashi appeared behind Zabuza with a kunai to his neck. "Don't move," Kakashi warned. "This is the end." Zabuza laughed, and Naruto could tell by his laugh that things were way from over. "Is this the end? You don't understand. You can't defeat me with just your indiscriminate imitations. I can assure you that." Another Zabuza appeared behind Kakashi. The Zabuza that Kakashi had at kunai neckpoint burst into a puddle of water. Zabuza swung his sword at Kakashi. Kakashi ducked, a mistake on his part. Zabuza swung his sword with such force that it cracked the solid ground and embedded itself in the ground. Zabuza twisted his hands on the sword and let go, sending Kakashi flying into the water with a sidekick. Zabuza pulled the sword out of the ground and ran toward Kakashi. Zabuza suddenly came to a stop. There were caltraps on the ground before him. Pretty useless when Zabuza just jumped onto the water behind Kakashi. Naruto saw it before Kakashi, but it was too late to warn him. Zabuza had finished the seals, and Kakashi was trapped in the missing Nin's hydro prison technique. Naruto was currently cursing Kakashi in every language she knew, which were quite a few. What idiot jumps into an enemy's territory? Zabuza's a missing Nin from the Hidden Mist village. Now let's guess what types of jutsus they use there. Ding dong, Scarecrow, you win the new water coffin. Especially designed to keep you locked in until you're torn to pieces, right after Zabuza deals with us. You three have forehead protectors as if you're ninja. Zabuza's clone said, not really caring that Naruto wasn't wearing a leaf forehead protector. But ninjas refer to someone who has gone through numerous life and death. Other words, you can call yourselves ninja after you appear in my bingo. 3 aren't ninja. Naruto felt his kick coming her way and instinctively caught his foot in her hand. Zabuza's eyes widened in surprise along with Team 7 and Tazuna. Zabuza brought his sword crashing down. Naruto backflipped out of the way. There was a small crater where Naruto would have been if she hadn't moved. Well, now. It looks like we have ourselves some kind of prodigy. Naruto glared at him. She hated that word. Oh no? Zabuza asked, catching Naruto's glare. Maybe not a prodigy, but you're not like these other brats. I can see it in the way you reacted. It was instinctive. You weren't fazed at all by the killing intent before either. You're a brat who has been in life or death situations. Quite often from what I see. Naruto grimaced. Like she needed her secrets broadcasted to the entire team. It was bad enough Kakashi was suspicious, but now he was probably even more suspicious along with her entire team. Everyone, take Tazuna and run. You can't win against can't move as long as he has me trapped in this. Also won't be able to use his water clone once you get away from here. Kakashi yelled to them from his prison. Run. You've got me joking, Scarecrow. 1 minute you are talking about teamwork and the next you are telling us to abandon you. Sorry, but I won't be called scum for something as stupid as this. Naruto yelled angrily to him. A ray of shurikens suddenly came rushing towards Zabuza. Sasuke was heading towards Zabuza. He had realized what Naruto had realized. The only way to get out of this was to set Kakashi free. Zabuza blocked Sasuke's shuriken with his sword. Sasuke leaped up and tried to get Zabuza from the air. Zabuza caught Sasuke by the neck and threw him back. Sasuke-kun, Sakura cried worried. Naruto was taking the time Sasuke had provided to come up with a plan. She needed to find a way to set Kakashi free using the Kage Bunshin Jutsu and the Academy Jutsus. Think. Zabuza's clone is irrelevant. We have to force the real Zabuza to release the Hydro Prison. But the only way he would do that is if he needed both of his hands, that's it. Naruto charged with it. Zabuza. Baka. Stop. Kakashi yelled. Naruto, what are you thinking? Sakura pulled at her hair. Naruto made a hand signal, and there were 20 more Narutos surrounding the Zabuza-s. Clones got decimated easily until Naruto was sent flying back. What are you thinking, charging in like that on your own? Even Sasuke-kun is no match for him. Genins like us have no way of beating him no matter what we try. Sakura yelled at her as Naruto stood up, whipping the blood from her mouth with her sleeve. Shut it. Maybe you like to stand like a helpless little girl and wait to be rescued, but I swore a long time ago to never stand by and do nothing, even if it costs me my life. I've never gone back on my word and now is no exception. Naruto turned to Zabuza and grinned cheekily. Hey, you know, brow freak. Put this in your bingo book. I'm Uzumaki Naruto, the one who's about to teach you a lesson and seeing underneath the underneath. Be sure to take notes. Are you trying to get him to kill you? Sakura hissed at her. Zabuza started to laugh. The laugh sent chills down everyone's. Continued to laugh, his shoulders shaking with mirth. You sure don't learn, do you? You still haven't learned. Still pretending to be ninja. When I was your age, my hands were covered with blood. Naruto could feel her team's fear returning tenfold. The demon Zabuza. Kakashi said. Oh, you've heard of me. Zabuza said. A long time ago the Hidden Mist village was known as the Bloody Mist. That village there existed an obstacle to becoming a ninja. Kakashi informed them. Oh, so you also know about the final test. Zabuza chuckled. What was this final test? Sakura's raging curiosity won over gut-wrenching fear. Students killing each other. Zabuza answered gleefully. Friends who have eaten from the same pot are separated into two and forced to fight. Each one of them is killed. This is done with friends that have helped each other, shared their dreams and competed with each other. That's awful. Sakura whispered, horrified, probably regretting ever asking the question. 10 years ago, the Hidden Mist village had to go through a reformation. Kakashi continued. Because in the last year a monster appeared that finally decided it. A reformation. What did this monster do? Sakura asked. A small boy who had not even gained the right to be a ninja killed over 100 of the candidates without any hesitation. Kakashi finished. That was fun. Zabuza said with a twisted smile on his charged forward and knocked Sasuke on his back. He needs Sasuke in the gut. Blood burst from Sasuke's mouth. Zabuza planted his foot on Sasuke's stomach and his hand reached for his sword. Naruto smirked and charged again with 30 clones behind distracted Zabuza's attention so Naruto could get Sasuke out of there. She handed him to Sakura. One by one Naruto's clones were destroyed until she remained. She pulled her backpack off and pulled out a few shuriken. Naruto jumped up in the air and hurled the shuriken toward the real Zabuza. Zabuza caught the shuriken with his other hand. Zabuza looked up in surprise as another shuriken came his way. Zabuza jumped over the shuriken this time. Naruto smirked. He fell for it. The shuriken unhinged to reveal the real Naruto. Naruto let loose a string of kunai aiming for hurriedly pulled his hand out of the prison, releasing Kakashi like Naruto had kunais whiz past Zabuza, but one kunai scratched Zabuza under the eye. Zabuza twirled the shuriken in his hand. You damn kid. Before he could send the shuriken toward Naruto, Kakashi stopped it with his hand. Naruto breathed a sigh of relief until she fell into the water. Naruto growled, she was soaked to the bone. She was going to get Kakashi back for this. Naruto, your plan was impressive. Kakashi complimented. You all have grown. Yeah. You can send me a thank you card and some chocolates after you whoop no eyebrows ass. Naruto replied, swimming to shore to avoid being a victim in the upcoming battle. Zabuza and Kakashi both jumped a distance from each other. Zabuza started to form hand seals with Kakashi coping it perfectly. Suiton Suryuiton no Jutsu. The two Jounins yelled in unison. Two dragons made from water rose from the lake and clashed head-on, creating a tidal wave that soaked everyone on shore. Naruto gritted her teeth. She was definitely going to get Kakashi for this later. She had just made it to shore only to be completely submerged in that wave and soaked by the water she had been trying to escape. When the water cleared, Naruto saw Kakashi holding against Zabuza's huge sword and what is it called? With a were at a stalemate, neither being able to push the other back. Naruto felt the back of her neck prickle. She ignored the ongoing battle and focused on their surroundings. She used her chakra web to detect anyone in the area. There was someone in the trees. They were keeping their chakra so low, you would think it's just a squirrel or some other animal. Naruto had felt it before when she was trying to find Zabuza before with her chakra webs, but had dismissed it as an animal. Stupid. I've been playing with kids so much, I've been relaxing my guard. Damn, I'm losing my touch. There isn't anything I can do now. I'll just have to see what this guy is up to. Naruto looked up as Kakashi blasted Zabuza with a Suiton Daibakufu. Zabuza was blasted into a tree, immobilized by the water flooding all around him. At the same time, Naruto felt the person who had been watching move toward them. Kakashi appeared on the tree branch on the tree that Zabuza was resting on. How? Can you see the future? Zabuza asked Kakashi. Yeah. You're going to die. Kakashi replied smoothly, pulling at a kunai. Naruto felt something slice the air. Two needles flew right into Zabuza, killing him before Kakashi got the chance. Zabuza fell onto the wet muddy ground beneath the tree. Kakashi leaped down from the tree and crouched down next to Zabuza's body. He checked Zabuza's pulse, confirming he was dead. Naruto narrowed her eyes at Zabuza's body. As far as she knew, needles weren't really fatal and you would have to hit a vital organ directly if you wanted to cause any harm at all. But there were ways you could hit a person with a needle that would make it seem as if you were dead. She was sure Zabuza wasn't dead. She could feel his life energy pulsing, and if she listened carefully with her advanced hearing, she could hear Zabuza's faint but beating heart. Naruto looked up at what she presumed was really Zabuza's comrade. She realized with a start that this was the guy in her vision. The one she had seen kill Sasuke. Now that she could a clear look at him, he couldn't be much older than her. The man in the tree bowed. Thank you very much. I was looking for a chance to kill Zabuza. Kakashi looked at the boy's mask. You're a hunter nin from the Hidden Mist village. If you'll excuse me. The hunter nin jumped down and put Zabuza's arm around his shoulder. He formed a hand seal and a vortex of wind encircled them. When it cleared, they were gone. Kakashi replaced his hide over his left eye. Kakashi's right eye widened slowly and he slumped forward. He didn't hit the ground though because Naruto caught him. She slung him over her shoulder while everyone raced up to them. Which way is your house? Naruto asked Izuna, as if she carried grown men on her shoulders every day. You're finally awake. Naruto closed a book of shadows she had been reading when she saw Kakashi open his eye. Sensei's awake. Sakura exclaimed, walking through the door with Izuna, his daughter, and Sasuke trailing behind. Sakura sat on Kakashi's left. Sharingan is amazing, but it puts a lot of strain on the body. I'm not sure if it's good or bad. By the way, Sensei, who was the boy with the mask? Sakura asked. He had the mask of a special pursuing squad from the Mist Village's job is to erase any evidence that a ninja was alive. A ninja's body will give away the secrets of its village. Kakashi sat up, his face a picture of unease. Hunter nins are supposed to eliminate the body on the spot. That boy wasn't a real hunter nin, he was Zabuza's accomplice. All heads turned to Naruto's direction. That's ridiculous. He killed Zabuza. Sakura said incredulously. Did he really? Sasuke wondered out loud. The weapon he used was a long needle. It's not the most fatal weapon. Could he have? Sasuke trailed off. It's exactly as you're thinking. Zabuza is alive. Kakashi said, finishing Sasuke's trail of thought. But sensei, you confirmed Zabuza's death. Sakura protested. I did, but he was mostly likely put into a near-death state. Kakashi sighed. Zabuza is alive. What? The bridge builder and Sakura shouted in unison. Naruto, why didn't you say anything if you knew that guy was Zabuza's friend? Sakura rounded on the blonde who was sitting near the window staring out at the ocean. If I had said anything, then you guys would have tried to stop him and he would have killed us. Scarecrow was already exhausted from his fight with Zabuza. If that guy did attack, we would have been finished. That guy had been spying on us the entire fight, probably assessing our abilities and especially analyzing Scarecrow's Sharingan. Now, Zabuza knows how the Sharingan really functions. He won't fall for it again. Naruto said quietly, watching the ocean reflect the sun's light, giving its shimmery surface. It won't matter what you do, if you go against Gatu you'll die. Said a little boy, attracting Naruto's attention. Naruto recognized him instantly as the boy from her dream vision. The one whose father had been killed. Inari, where were you? Tazuna held out his arms so Inari could come into them. Inari, say hello to them, these are the ninja that escorted Grandpa home. Tsunami scolded sternly. Mom, they're all going to die. There's no way anyone can win by going against Gatu. Inari said miserably. Heading for the door. Inari, where are you going? Tazuna asked. To watch the ocean, Inari answered sullenly, leaving the room. Sensei, how are you going to prepare for this fight before it's too late? You can't move for a while. Sakura inquired after Inari had left. Kakashi started laughing, never a good sign. I'm going to make you all go through some training. If we train, it won't help much. Since the enemy is someone you, Kakashi the Sharingan user, had a difficult time with. Even though she said it politely, Naruto could see her shouting on the inside something like, damn it. Are you trying to kill us? Sakura, who saved me when I had a difficult time? Kakashi asked, smiling. You three are growing at an amazing rate. HMPH. Sasuke crossed his arms over his chest. We didn't do anything. Naruto was the one who got you out of the water prison. Everyone looked at Naruto, who had reopened the gigantic book and appeared to be reading again. What are you reading? Kakashi asked curiously, trying to get a look. Naruto closed her eyes and took a deep breath to keep from yelling at him for interrupting her reading. She had been reading on how to levitate. Something she wanted to desperately learn. Family secret stuff. Naruto answered Kakashi after she had mentally counted to 10. But you don't have any family. Sakura pointed out thoughtlessly. Naruto's eyes hardened into steel. She closed her book and silently left the room before she could push Sakura out the window. Sakura, that was a cold thing to say. Kakashi admonished. Especially after she saved all our lives back there. I'm sorry, sensei, it just slipped. Sakura replied, ashamed that she had done something that she had to be scolded for. Back in the academy, none of the teachers had cared if you said anything bad about Naruto. In fact, it was encouraged by the instructors. She doesn't have any family? Tazuna asked in curious surprise. No. Naruto grew up without a mother or father. Kakashi replied after a moment's contemplation on how to answer the question. Who were Naruto's parents, sensei? Sasuke asked out of nowhere. Who were Naruto's parents? Well, I don't really know myself. Kakashi said sheepishly, rubbing the back of his head. Were they ninja? Sasuke prodded, not believing his sensei. Why so curious about Naruto all of a sudden, Sasuke? Kakashi asked curiously before he got a strange glint in his eye and a hand flew to his mouth. Don't tell me that you have a crush on our little Naruto. What? That's stupid, like I would ever go for that dope anyway. Sasuke's face had changed to an embarrassed shade of red, while Sakura supported a scandalized look. Naruto rolled her eyes skyward at her idiot sensei. He had an interesting way of changing the subject. Like I would ever go for an Uchiha. I hate the Uchihas. Well, except Obito, but he really doesn't count. Naruto slowly descended the stairs with her book under arm. Her advanced hearing was picking up the sound of crying. She landed on the bottom of the first flight of stairs to enter a hallway. She walked in the direction of the sobbing. There before her eyes was the man from her vision, only difference was he was dead. He looked pretty much the way he had in her vision, except he had both arms intact. That was the thing about ghosts. When they died, they took the form of when they had felt youngest. If a limb had been severed while they were alive, it would still be attached when they became ghosts. He was standing before a slightly jarred door. It was the room Naruto had heard the sobbing coming from. It was Inari crying for his father. Naruto looked at the ghost before her. He didn't even glance her way, probably because he was so accustomed to everyone just passing through was staring at his son, something flickering in his eyes. It took Naruto a moment to identify it as pain. The pain a parent felt when their child was in pain. Naruto had never been good with parental relationships. Mostly because she hated her parents and thought they were the scum of the earth for abandoning her without a second thought. Right, now though Naruto could understand what they meant when people said there is nothing like a parent-child bond. Naruto took a deep breath. Might as well get introductions over with. Naruto grabbed the fisherman's man turned to look at her, as if she were the Shinigami himself her to take him. No matter how many times Naruto saw that look, it never got old. She loved that look. So you can see ghosts? Kaiza asked one more time to be sure he heard right. Naruto nodded. That's right. And you want me to tell what Gatu's been doing the past year after my death? Naruto nodded patiently again. Ghosts were pretty slow, but who could blame them? You really didn't use your brain much when you were dead. You're a very strange boy. The fisherman commented absently. Naruto glared at him, her eye twitching. She had a bad habit of twitching her eyes when she was highly annoyed. She's a girl. The fisherman turned to study the newcomer. Obito hadn't listened to only come when you are needed speech of the Shodaime. What are you doing here? Naruto asked her friend. Obito shrugged. There wasn't anything to do back in Konoha, so I thought I would visit Chaban up too. Nothing much. Saved my entire team from an A-ranked hit and miss nuke nin, but that's all that's been happening. I missed that. Why didn't you call us? Because I didn't need you. That's mean thing to say. You're horrible. Cry me a river. You didn't chop off the Noom Nin's head in front of the Genin, did you? No. He got away. He got away. Man, you are getting old. Who you calling old, crybaby? Who you calling a crybaby, Baba? The goggle-wearing midget in front of me. How are you calling me a midget when I am taller than you? I still haven't gone through my growth spurt. I'll outgrow you soon enough. Keep telling yourself that. Whatever. The two squabbling teenagers turned their backs to each other, with an amused Kaiza watching. Naruto, weren't you investigating this Gatu person? Naruto turned her head into the direction of the Nidaime, who had apparently been watching without revealing his presence. I know. Kaiza-san, could you please tell me what Gatu has been up to for the past year? Naruto asked politely while Obito gaped open-mouthed at her. Damn, she has manners. How come I never heard about this? Obito asked the Nidaime in shock. Naruto sent Obito a glare of venom which he avoided by hiding behind the Nidaime. It would be better if I just showed you. Kaiza replied, floating towards the village. Naruto followed him on the rooftops using a concealment jutsu to keep herself from being seen from any of the villagers. There were homeless people of all ages littering the streets. Beggars trying to get food from people who barely had any themselves. The grocery stores looked completely empty, except for maybe a few half-rotten vegetables. What disturbed Naruto the most though was the hopeless looks all of the villagers supported. If she were to describe them, she'd say they were like zombies searching for their graves, but never able to find it. This is awful. Obito whispered, horrified at the state of the village. No matter which time period you live in, there are always tyrants like Gatu everywhere. Nidaime said quietly. Gatu's a despicable man who's stealing the resources of this country. He has crushed everyone's hopes of ever seeing the other side of that bridge. When I died, I wanted to give courage to the people of this village, but my death had the opposite effect. The people lost all hope and became cowards. Kaiza said, his hands clenching into fists. Don't worry about a thing, Kaiza-san. Obito thumped his chest with his fist. We are going to take care of everything. We? What's this we you're talking about? Naruto asked him, raising an eyebrow that went unnoticed. You, me and Nayani-chan. Obito answered happily. Naruto's hand shot out and pulled both his cheeks in opposite directions. Don't volunteer me for something I haven't even agreed to. Itai. Nayani-chan, help. Obito cried, flailing his arms helplessly. Come on Naruto, let the poor kid go. Nidaime extracted Obito from Naruto's clutches. Naruto turned to Kaiza, who was gazing at them with a curious look on his face. Like Obito said, we'll take care of it. How exactly are you guys going to take care of it? You're just a little girl and you two are dead. Kaiza asked incredulously. Naruto shot him a grin, choosing to ignore the little girl comment. In cases like this you shouldn't aim for the arms or the legs, you have to aim for the head. Naruto winked at him. Don't worry, I'll take care of this. Naruto leapt off of the rooftop and headed to what looked like Gatu's base. Alright, now, it's time for training. Kakashi announced, happily leaning on his crutches for support. What kind of training, sensei? Sakura asked. Kakashi proceeded to show them all the tree climbing exercise. Naruto yawned in boredom, sitting at the base of a tree. What are you doing? This is boring, I already know this exercise. You have to keep up pretenses. So then in that case the fox trailed off and Naruto felt dread seize her limbs. When it came to training, the fox could go a little overboard. Naruto relaxed after a few moments. She was probably just being paranoid. Naruto's hand flew to clutch her stomach. A few more minutes later, it felt like someone was trying to glue to the earth. Her limbs felt heavy and her organs felt like they were going to leap out of her body. The hell did you do, Kitsune no Baka? Nothing much. Just tripled that gravity seal on you. Now that tree climbing exercise won't be so easy and you can improve on your chakra control and your physical strength and stamina. He really was too happy for this just to be some simple training exercise. Tripled? Are you crazy? You brought me up from 50 times gravity to a 150. You've been slacking off in your training. As I recall you could do 500 times this gravity and still move faster than the average shinobi. In my real body sure. But guess what? I'm not in my real body. Quit complaining and get to it. Grumbling, Naruto picked up a kunai and began climbing the tree in front of her like Sakura and Sasuke were doing. A few feet up the tree, she felt the tree bark dent a little and backflipped onto the ground to avoid falling. This is really easy. Everyone looked up at Sakura who had climbed up all the way to the first branch of the tree. She was sitting on the branch dangling her feet, grinning. Well. It looks like the one best at controlling her chakra is the girl, Sakura. It looks like the Uchiha clan isn't so great. Kakashi taunted, trying to get Sasuke riled up. Normally, Naruto wouldn't have said anything. She could care less how much Kakashi praised someone like Sakura. It was just the way Kakashi had put an emphasis on the girl part that riled Naruto up and also how he had disregarded Naruto even being here. Well, of course she would be the best at controlling her chakra. She has so little of it I'd be surprised if she couldn't control it. Naruto declared coolly. Don't try to make yourself look better by making me look weaker than you. Sakura screeched at Naruto angrily. Besides, if you had even come to the academy you would know that girls are naturally born with less chakra than boys. It's a proven fact. Naruto's jaw clenched so hard, Kakashi was sure that she broke some teeth. Is that what you blame your weakness on? You can't match up with any of the guys, so you automatically assume it's because you were just born like that and you are just going to leave it. Let me inform you of something. Whatever they said in the academy was shit. That's not how chakra is at all. I'll explain it slowly so that small brains of yours can comprehend. Chakra, like you have downloaded in that useless book Smart Brain of yours, is like you said, composed of physical energy and spiritual energy. It is true that guys are born physically stronger than girls, but girls are born with a higher spiritual energy than boys. The only reason guys appear to have more chakra than girls is because they achieve more spirit energy when they go through battles. While normal kunoichis like you Sakura, who don't take the job seriously, don't even bother pursuing taijutsu training to improve their physical energy. And that is why most girls appear to have less chakra than guys when it is really because they care too much about looks, boys and other stupid things that probably won't save your life in battle. Don't act like a know-it-all. Sakura sneered at her. You were the dead last in the academy, so how would you know anything? You probably made all that up. Naruto raised her right hand which was clenched into a fist and slammed it into the tree beside her. Nothing happened for a minute, but then the tree lurched backward and slammed backward into another tree, knocking it over, which continued until 5 huge trees had been knocked over. That's what happens when you actually take your training seriously. Naruto said to her team who were staring at her in shock. Naruto stuffed her hands in her coat pockets and walked off. Kakashi rubbed his head. We're getting troublesome. Naruto walked off in a blind fury. She had wanted to bash that bitch's head into the ground. Naruto had never liked Sakura, but with that little speech of hers, it went from don't like to extremely hate. That girl had no pride as a woman whatsoever. Naruto had grown up surrounded by female warriors, not mention her entire clan had been made of female warriors. Strong, smart and kind. Traits that a female warrior should be remembered for, but instead the first thing that came to mind when thinking of a female warrior was she beautiful? In her mother's lands, it wasn't an issue. Women were revered and treated as equal, as that wasn't the case in shinobi lands. Compared to the number of kunoichi there were and how many of them actually became great, it was a deep blow to Naruto's to mention most kunoichi chose to go into genjutsu or medical fields. In all her days Naruto had never heard of a kunoichi that specialized in taijutsu. It was especially irritating when there were girls like Sakura and Ino who were prime examples to why females were thought of as weak. She guessed it was because she was getting a bit homesick. She missed her friends, her people, her brothers, her grandparents, not having to hide anything, being treated with respect. All the things she had never had in Konoha and probably would never have. Naruto, shouldn't you be training with your team? Naruto heard the Nidaime asked. Naruto looked around and realized that she was where she had left her ghostly comrades after she had finished laying out Gatu's base. I'm done training with them. Nidaime frowned but decided not to ask, which Naruto was grateful for. If you have finished training with them, then why don't you train your magic? It would be a shame to let the knowledge in that book go to waste after everything you went through to get it. Naruto held out her hand and whispered a few words in a different language under breath. The Uzumaki Book of Shadows appeared in her hand. Naruto cracked the book open and returned to the page on levitation. Magic? Kaiza asked, confused, looking at the Nidaime and Obito for confirmation. Obito and the Nidaime both nodded. Then Naruto-kun is a magician. Not exactly. She's actually a witch. Nidaime answered. A witch? Kaiza stared at Naruto in amazement. But I thought witches had long hook noses and rode on broomsticks and stuff. If you take a closer look at Naruto's nose, it is really long, see? Obito grabbed Naruto's nose to show Kaiza. Tai. Obito screamed, clutching his nose which Naruto had just broken. You deserved that. I told you to never make fun of my nose again, didn't I? Naruto stood up and stretched. Okay. I just read up on levitation. I am going to try to do it, but I may lose concentration and fall, so be sure to catch me, alright? Don't worry. When have we ever let anything happen bad to you? Nidaime patted Naruto's hat. Naruto gave him an incredulous look. When the Shodaime wasn't around to instill some discipline, Obito and the Nidaime were usually the cause of most of Naruto's bruise. The demon goo incident doesn't count. It was Obito's fault. Nidaime protested instantly after seeing the look thrown at him. My fault. You were supposed to watch it. Not let it transform and eat half of the village. Obito countered. Naruto shook her head and tuned out their argument. She took a deep breath and reached inside to her core. She called on the power there, sending her to all parts of her body, forgetting that this exercise would be 100 times more harder to accomplish since her body was experiencing 150x normal gravity. Slowly Naruto began to rise in the air. Naruto closed her eyes in distressed concentration. This practice required a lot of magic, which was why much witches and wizards preferred teleportation. Naruto was now high in the air as she opened her eyes. She saw Obito and Nidaime still fighting down there and Kaiza looking up at her and could see the village from up here. Everything looked really small from up here. The winds caressed her, carrying the salty smell of the ocean, with inhaled the air, loving the salty fresh smell. Hey brat. What do you want, Ani-chan? First, never call me that again. 2. I need to ask you something of the utmost importance. What? You must promise to tell the truth. The whole truth and nothing but the truth. Naruto frowned. On the outside the fox sounded serious and a bit drunk. Okay. I promise. You pinky swear promise? Yes. I freaking promised already, so what the hell did you need to ask me? Alright. I need you to tell me which of my tails is the fluffiest. Nani? What kind of question is Naruto, distracted by her conversation with the forgot to keep spilling out her magic and began plummeting to the tried to concentrate her magic again, but it was useless, she was falling too fast. Ah. I'll get you stupid fox. Obito, Nai-sensei, help. Unfortunately for Naruto, Obito and the Nidaime were still arguing and Kaiza probably didn't even know he could catch her. Naruto had a very intimate reunion with Mother Earth. An earth bed was even prepared for her, which she was lying in at the moment with dirt shoved in her face and every limb of hers felt like it had been smashed by a hammer. You see, whelp. That's what happens when you lose concentration so easily. Not to mention you forgot that you are experiencing 150x normal gravity, so naturally you wouldn't have been able to regain control after that. Kyuubi was lecturing. Getting off the ground doesn't seem to be your problem, it's the landing you need to work on. Naruto proceeded to tell the fox exactly where he could stick those fluffy tails. That was the first flying lesson Naruto had, and after she got up off the ground, she pummeled her 2 inattentive comrades and called in the Shodaime to help, since he wouldn't be so careless as to let her fall to her death like his brother and subordinate. Naruto returned to the clearing where her team had been practicing their chakra control. She was surprised to see Sasuke there since the sun had gone down and they had been practicing since midday. She wasn't surprised though to see Sakura was nowhere in sight. She had probably already gotten to the top and then claimed she was tired and had gone home. Sasuke was looking at her strangely though, and she wondered why until she remembered how she must look after all that levitation training. Her clothes were covered in dirt, she looked disheveled and she was limping painfully. Where were you? Naruto raised an eyebrow at the out-of-character behavior. Since when did the great Uchiha survivor care where she was? You left Sakura in an annoying mood. Ah, so that's why. Naruto almost grimaced in sympathy. At the same time she felt ashamed that she shared the same gender with that girl. She had seen girls with crushes before, but they were never like this. It must be something about Konoha that made the women there slightly insane. Naruto turned her head in the direction of the tree Sasuke had been climbing. He had gotten only halfway up the tree. Not surprising since he had a lot more chakra in his reserves than Sakura. You only got halfway up the tree after all this time? Naruto teased gently, hoping to have some fun with him. Shut up. It's not like you did any better. Sasuke bristled in annoyance. Naruto crossed her arms across her chest. I did way better than you considering I made it all the way to the top. Liar. Sasuke called disbelievingly. Naruto shook her head. You don't have to believe me if you don't want. I'm surprised though. Surprised by what? The Uchiha asked in a way that said hurry up and say what you want to say so you can get out of my way. You had Sakura here that entire time. She may be annoying, but she is supposed to be really good at this, why didn't you just ask her for some tips? Naruto inwardly smirked, she knew he was way too arrogant to ask for anyone's help. He accepts to be better than anyone at the drop of the hat just because he was born in Uchiha. I don't need any help. The opal-eyed shinobi answered arrogantly, as Naruto expected. Sasuke, wasn't one of your goals to rebuild your clan? Naruto asked slowly in a manner that someone would use to tell a 3-year-old to stop eating paste. Yeah. You do know where babies come from? Of course I know, you dope. Good. I was a bit worried there. For a minute I thought I was going to have to give you the talk about the birds and the bees. Do you have a point? Sasuke's voice was strained and his cheeks had turned a bit pink. He was embarrassed by this to Naruto's amusement. Yeah, I actually do have a point. See, Sasuke, if you want to resurrect your clan you're going to need a wife. Don't tell me you're offering. Ew. Fuck no. Ichiha babies. Ugh. Naruto shivered at the thought of more Sasuke little parapeted freaks running around. Like I was saying, you're going to need a wife. It's not going to be a good idea if you alienate the whole female population of Konoha, so you should treat Sakura a little better. Who knows, one thing might lead to another and you could be having Uchiha babies in a few years. Just picture it. Your eyes, Sakura's hair. Your duck-ass-shaped head. Naruto broke off with a yelp as Sasuke charged at her. Naruto, seeing nowhere to escape, climbed the tree to escape the arm. She had gone a little too far with the teasing. Hop. Oh god, no. Naruto's body was too tired from her all-day flying lessons to generate enough chakra to climb with this level of gravity being forced on her. She fell backwards and on top of Sasuke, who had been hot on her heels. Her weight was too much for him and his concentration also broke. He twisted them in midair so Naruto was on the bottom and would be the one to receive the impact. Naruto slammed against Mother Earth for the umpteenth time today. She was really beginning to hate gravity and Mother Wind was knocked out of Naruto a moment later when Sasuke landed right on her. His head buried in her chest. When Naruto regained the ability to breathe once more, she realized the position they were in. Sasuke hefted his head slowly, only to be met with a hard hand whipping him across the face and a yell. Sasuke, you pervert. It was your fault, you clumsy idiot. He yelled back, not removing himself from on top of her. My fault. You were the one chasing me. Naruto retorted hotly. You said you made it all the way to the top, but you didn't even make it halfway before you fell off. There was a crazed parakeet-headed lunatic chasing me, and I lost concentration. A real ninja wouldn't lose concentration no matter the circumstance, dope. That's all fine and dandy, team. Now, would you mind getting off of me? Sasuke was about to get off of her when an idea popped in his head. It was childish and a waste of time, but it would be payback for putting him in this position. His hand stretched up to touch the rim of her hat before Naruto jerked her head forward. Boy, duck butt. You can call me dope or whatever, but do not, I repeat, do not touch my hat. That only enticed his curiosity even more. He brought up his knees and pressed them onto Naruto's arms. He reached for Naruto's hat again. Just a little more and he would find out what was underneath that stupid thing. Oh no, what are you two doing? Sasuke's head whipped around instantly in the direction of his sensei, who was staring at their position wide-eyed, thinking God knows what. Naruto turned her tear-rimmed eyes to Kakashi. Sensei, he was trying to molest me while no one was looking. Sasuke quickly climbed off of her, spluttering indignantly. Naruto, after being released, ran behind Kakashi. Kakashi patted the girl's head awkwardly as she clung to him. There, Naruto. Why don't you go back to the house while I have a talk with over here? Naruto nodded, making a show of wiping her eyes. While Kakashi's back was turned, Naruto shot Sasuke a smirk. The look he returned probably would have sent her to the river Styx by now. Sasuke. Kakashi shook his head sadly once Naruto was gone. If you are going to get a girlfriend, you need to be gentler. Here. Kakashi pulled out his famous Icha Paradise to the bug-eyed crimson-faced rookie of the year. This should give you some tips on how to go about getting you a Kibito. That's how Kakashi lost a few hair strands and Sasuke came to hate Naruto even more than his entire fan club. Unknown to Naruto, Obito had been watching her and Sasuke. He was struck with a sudden dislike of his cousin. He had never liked him before, but now he really didn't like him. Obito watched Kakashi go back to the house and Sasuke hit Obito like an exploding tag in the face. A grin spread across his face. Sure, Naruto would probably be mad at him, but this was too fun to resist. He floated down beside Sasuke and, I'm back. Everyone paused at eating. Was that Sasuke's voice they heard, and was that voice cheerful? Sasuke burst through the door with a grin on his face. Not a smirk, a grin. Hallelujah, it's the apocalypse. Sasuke-kun, sit down and eat. You must be really hungry after all the training you did. Sakura greeted sweetly. Thanks, Sakura-chan. Naruto nearly spit out her rice at hearing that, but she definitely spit her rice out and onto Kakashi's masked face, who was too shocked by what had occurred next to even berate Naruto. Sasuke had bent down and kissed Sakura. Not on the lips, but it had been close enough that she fainted. Sasuke regarded her strangely unconscious on the floor, but then shrugged and started to eat the meal that had been served to him. A second later and tears were rolling down his face. I haven't had a meal this good in years. He cried out. Naruto sent a concerned or rather freaked out look to Kakashi, who had unveiled his Sharingan to stare at Sasuke. Tazuna and Tsunami, who haven't known Sasuke very long, weren't that disturbed. Sasuke, did you hit your head while you were tree climbing?" Naruto asked after Kakashi had shook his head at her, not detecting any jutsu placed on Sasuke. Sasuke looked up from his meal and shook his head at Naruto. "Nope, Naru-chan." Naruto's eyebrows twitched. "If you want to possess the ability to have children, you will never call me that again." "Then what about Goldilocks?" he asked smartly with a grin. Naruto glared at him. "No, you can't." She cut herself off mid-sentence. There was only one person who would ever dare call her that. Naruto stood up and grabbed the back of Sasuke's shirt. "Me and pretty boy here are going to get some extra training done," she informed the three pair of curious eyes that were watching them. "But what about my food?" Sasuke whined. "Eat later." Naruto growled, pulling him out the door and bringing him to the middle of the forest. After Naruto made sure Kakashi hadn't followed, she whirled around to glare at Sasuke. "Uh-oh. I know that look. You're mad at me," Sasuke said cheekily. "Obito, just what the hell did you do?" Naruto asked, glaring at the possessed Sasuke. "Nothing. This sure as hell don't look like nothing to me." "Alright, I may have borrowed his body for a little bit," Obito confessed, uncomfortably shifting from one foot to the other. Naruto sighed. "What for?" "Look, don't be mad at me. It's just that I wanted to feel alive again." Obito drew closer to her. "I wanted to feel warmth again." Naruto's anger was washed away after that. She could understand his desire completely. The one thing the early departed wanted was to walk among the living once again. "Don't get used to this though. You're probably putting a lot of strain on Sasuke's body," Naruto told him. Obito shrugged, sitting down at the base of the tree. "He'll live and I won't be doing this every time I feel like it. I just wanted to see if ghosts could really possess people like in the movies and stuff." Naruto sat beside him, chuckling slightly. "So what exactly is it like being dead?" "Everything feels the same," Obito answered. He elaborated at Naruto's puzzled expression. "It's like when I touch you, it's no different than picking up a card. Everything feels the same to me. Nothing feels warm or cold. It's like it's there. That's the best I can explain it." "Then does being in an alive body feel weird now?" "It is, actually. Hearing a heartbeat, the breathing. The wind in my hair, it's different." Naruto suddenly found a cool hand resting on her cheek and she was staring into obsidian eyes. "You feel different too," Obito whispered, his warm breath caressed Naruto's cheek. Something electrifying traveled down her spine and suddenly her stomach was in knots. Her heart was hammering against her ribsage. "How so?" She was very proud to say that she said these two words without sounding like she was hyperventilating. Obito's head came to rest on Naruto's chest parallel to her beating heart, which was currently beating like a drum. "You feel warm. I can touch you like this without worrying about whether I'll phase through you or not." "Oh." Words had pretty much dried up in her throat. "You smell nice." Naruto's cheeks were the color of Sakura's dress after hearing that. She had no idea what was wrong with her. This was Obito. The kid that she known since she was 7. The guy who had always given her stupid excuses to being late. The guy who helped her plan stupid pranks. Then why did she feel like this? It wasn't unpleasant, but this was a foreign feeling. Naruto was drawn into Obito's embrace unceremoniously while she tried to stop her racing heart. Her head was tucked under his chin with his arms wrapped around her. Even though he was in Sasuke's body, she didn't see him as Sasuke at all. "Naruto." His voice had deepened with some unknown quality and his face was coming closer to hers. She was in a daze. Her heart was doing the electric slide and her stomach was in knots. She still didn't have her question answered though. What the hell was going on? Naruto gently pulled herself from Obito's embrace and stood on she hadn't regained the power to form coherent sentences yet. It wasn't helping that Obito was staring at her strangely and even being alone with him under the starlight and sky was making her nervous and she couldn't understand why. Obito's hand went to his stomach and he groaned. His eyebrows were knitted together in pain. Naruto kneeled down next to him worriedly. "What's wrong, Obito?" Obito opened his mouth to reply, but instead of words, a white orb burst out of his mouth and went soaring deeper into the forest. Sasuke's body collapsed onto the ground. Naruto looked at Sasuke, wondering what would be the best thing to do with him now that Obito had been forced out of him. Sasuke groaned from the ground. Naruto decided it was time to leave since she didn't want to be the one to explain to the Uchiha why he was unconscious on the ground and went looking for Obito in the direction Sasuke had thrown him up. She found him near a stream rubbing his aching head. She plopped down next to him. "I think you were too modest for his taste." Obito scowled at her amusement. "The book said it was easier if the host was a blood relative," he muttered under his breath. "The book?" Naruto repeated, eyeing Obito suspiciously. "You wouldn't happen to be referring to the book I specifically told you not to touch, would you?" Obito wouldn't meet her eyes and Naruto sighed. "You shouldn't try doing things like that on your own. You could get hurt and then who knows what could happen." "I won't get hurt. If you've forgotten, I'm dead." Obito objected bitterly, glaring at the clear blue stream, as if it had offended him. I'm glad you're dead. Naruto said absently, without any thought. Obito tensed and his eyes held something akin to betrayal and disbelief. Not as in I'm happy you died. Naruto corrected quickly, realizing her mistake. It's just think about it. If you weren't dead, you'd be Kakashi's age, doing missions with him, and other stupid ninja would have never met, and if we had I never would have trusted a Konoha shinobi, especially not the Yondaime student. Besides you would have had a lot more interesting things to do than watch over a brat like me. That's true. Obito agreed to Naruto's disappointment. Well except the interesting part. You have no idea how interesting your life is compared to the rest of the world. Obito flashed her a grin. Trust me, even a trip to the grocery store with you is an adventure. Trouble sticks to you like flies to a dog. Thanks, I'm a vixen being compared to a flea-bitten mutt. Naruto suddenly scowled, remembering something. I have a question. Why the hell did you kiss Sakura? Sakura? Obito echoed confused, a second later he grinned in Naruto's direction. Why are you jealous? Naruto tried to sound indifferent. No, I'm just saying Sasuke won't have any memory of kissing her, and she is going to take that kiss as a sign that he is actually interested. You just caused a huge mess. Maybe you could have a girl talk with her or something. Obito suggested hopefully. Girl talks aren't exactly my thing. Remember what happened last time I talked to her? Naruto reminded him. Obito sighed. I guess you're right. You have never got along with girls, even Rin. I get along with Rin. Naruto argued. Yeah, you love her so much that when you were learning medical jutsus from her, you finished 2 years worth of training in 2 months. Obito said dryly. It's not because she's a girl. It's just she's a Konoha shinobi, I guess. Naruto admitted softly and instantly regretted it. I'm a Konoha shinobi, too. Or is it because I'm not good enough to count as a threat to you? Obito demanded hotly, his tone was hurt and angry. Naruto kept her face impassive and at the same time slapping herself mentally. She really needed to do something about her big mouth. I didn't mean it like that. Normal shinobis wouldn't have put a mission aside and saved their comrade like you did. Naruto's hands clenched her knees. They would have let their friends die for the sake of the mission. You still hate Konoha, then? Obito asked softly. Not as much as I used to. I just want to be done with Konoha and return to Seraphine. She answered truthfully. When we first met, you said I'm going to be the Hokage, no matter what it takes. Then everyone will stop disrespecting me and treat me like I'm worth something. That was your dream a long time ago. What's changed? Naruto let out a laugh devoid of any humor. What's changed? You mean besides the fact that I found out I'm not even human, hell I'm not even a witch or a demon. I make up my own species, the first in existence. Besides I was just a kid back then. I just wanted the power the Hokage name granted. I didn't want the responsibility. The Hokage believes in his people, loves his people and will give everything to protect his people. Did I believe in Konoha? No. Did I love the people of Konoha? No. Was I willing to do everything in my power to protect the villagers of Konoha? No. So you tell me. Did I deserve to be a Hokage? That still doesn't explain why you hate Konoha so much. Obito asked. Naruto kept her gaze on the stream not wanting to meet Obito's eyes. I don't want to tell you that. You gave your life for Konoha. You love Konoha, you're my best friend. Only a real monster would cause their friend such unnecessary pain. Naruto blinked suddenly, recalling something. Speaking of Rin, what did she talk to you about the other day? Obito's entire demeanor turned tense and his face became guarded. Nothing much. Just some stupid stuff about Kakashi. He answered nonchalantly. Like what? Naruto pressed, wondering what the perfect Rin could have done to make Obito so rigid about this conversation. She was just wondering if it was usual for boys to walk around in nothing but boxers while reading porn. Obito told Naruto, whose eyebrow twitched. Does he think I will actually believe that? What kind of idiot does he take me for? Nevertheless she decided not to pursue the subject. Naruto sighed in defeat, stood and tapped Obito on the forehead. I'm going to sleep now. Don't get into any more trouble, Obito-chan. Naruto disappeared from the clearing before Obito could yell at her for adding Chan to his name again. She completely missed the red hue of color that rushed to the ghost's face. Naruto found a tree branch and went to sleep. The past haunting her dreams.